All right, the light is green.
All right.
There we go.
3, 2.
This is CoCoTALK, the world's leading live talk show featuring the Tandy color computer. Streaming live on YouTube and Roku, available as a podcast and enjoyed the world over. And now, here's your host.
Hello, everybody. This is Grant Leighty. I'll be guest hosting today while Stevie is going to go get his sex change operation. So he's not going to go from a man to a woman. So he's going to have some boobs here in the next near future.
Had those for years.
You're not talking about the panel here right now, are you?
How's it going, guys? How was your week?
Swamped, busy with work.
Yeah, I hear you there. How about you, Steve?
Not bad. It's been a hectic week, so and I have family visiting, which is why you're hosting today.
Yeah, we have a small panel here today, but so this might be the world's shortest or it might be the world's longest CoCoTALK. We don't know which way it's going to go yet, but we'll find out.
Definitely the world's most rambling, I'm guessing. That's my...
So we got Stevie here. He'll be here for a little bit.
And then
we have...
rage quit.
Exactly. Yeah, this is a rage quit no zone here, so we won't be rage quitting here. Rick Adams is here. Hey, Rick, how you doing?
Hello there. Having fun, squashing bugs.
It sounds like a good thing. Curtis Boyle, how are you doing?
Like I said, I've been busy with work. I haven't even read the Discord as much or the Facebook stuff as much as I normally do because it's just been swamped. So this is a nice break, actually.
Well, we'll try to make this as short or as long as possible, but you can't hang up until the end, okay?
We'll see.
All right, Nick, all the way down.
Watch carefully, take notes.
Nick, all the way down in Australia. How you doing, Nick?
Yeah, not too bad. Nothing new from me.
How's the weather down there? Is it cold?
It's starting to warm up a bit, so yeah, it's not too bad at the moment.
That's good. That's good. And then, of course, we got Junior Troll here, Richard.
Hello.
Richard, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing okay. Still doing my community service, being forced to be on this show, so, you know.
Well, register your complaints with Stevie over there. He's the one that's cutting the paychecks here.
Yeah, I've also heard it's a life sentence.
Yes, probably.
All right, and I think Steve Bjork might be joining us. I think that might be who that is.
I see the name Steve on the screen.
Yeah, he's like Madonna. He doesn't need a last name.
All right, well, great. Well, as we're waiting on Steve Bjork here, does anybody have any acquisitions or updates they want to talk about real quick?
I guess I can do mine just so Steve can get his set up. But
sure, go ahead.
Right now, the boomerangs are sold out, so
Ooh.
I'm not taking any orders right now until probably Tuesday or Wednesday.
Wow, good job.
I'm fulfilling all the ones that people have already paid for. That doesn't mean you're going to get them shipped on Wednesday. It's just that I just don't want to accept any more orders and people waiting around saying, "Where's my stuff?" So the rest, the people that have paid, everything will be shipped out. I'm doing shipments today, tomorrow, and Monday. So all those will be done. But to date, I have done 62 orders.
Nice.
Wow.
Nice.
So it's been an overwhelming success.
Have you been getting much feedback from the people who've actually got them and installed them now?
Yes, I've gotten plenty of feedback. I also had some questions. Some people have asked questions. I mean, one of the things that typical that most vendor hardware people do is they put out hardware and they don't put out the docks. And I kind of wanted to carry the tradition. Like, I was like, you have a color computer. It's one of those figure it out yourself. So we're kind of used to that. But,
right.
Grab a soldering iron and choose your own adventure.
Yeah, there you go. No, I am working on the docs, but it's pretty straightforward and easy. But there's some questions that some people have, and I was going to go ahead and address those. One is the disable jumper that is on the Guardian Plus board. that disable is what that does is it disables the 2 meg. It makes it into a 512. And the reason I added that feature, it was more of a convenience because there are some games made by Sierra, and then there was a few of Sockmaster's old demos, and a lot of these have already been patched. But just in case, that jumper is there that you can use, and you can actually hook up a little switch if you want and have it has external. But it's something that is probably not going to be used hardly at all, but it was just there set up as a convenience. So people really don't really need to worry about it. But, again, that's the reason I put it there. Second question is the wire that goes between the DAP board and the memory. And people have asked me, which way do I plug it in? And the answer is it doesn't matter. It's an address line. And in RAM, address lines, it doesn't care. They don't have to be in a certain sequential order. As long as the address line is hooked, if there's one address line going to one place, it's fine. It doesn't, the computer doesn't care which order that they're listed or placed. So you could put that wire any which way you want to install it. It doesn't care.
And the one exception to that, I believe, was if you're modifying the original Triad board to get 1 meg up, and it is fussy on which of the two?
Right. Yes. That has to be hooked up to the first, which is what you see bank. It's right underneath the B part. That's the first bank, because it doesn't. The way the address line, if it doesn't see the address line, then it says, okay, it's only a 512. So if it sees that bank active, then it'll say, oh, it's a 1 meg, because each address line is 1 meg bank, is what that is.
Okay, and then of course you got to have docs on how to make the blinky LED work.
Right. Yeah, and I'm working on the docs right now. It has 2 features. It's a tricolor LED, so it can blink red, blue, or green, and also white if you turn all the lights on at once. And it also has a feature for turbo light, so you can set it up to if it's a high speed, it'll light up one way, or low speed the other way. But the LED is turned off by default. The address is FFEF. And I did post up on Facebook. Jim Brain wrote a real quick fade demo of the LED. If you want to download it, and you can it'll show how the LED lights up. I mean, all it does is fade in and out. It's kind of cool.
That sounds pretty cool. Simon says there is no sound. Well, that sounds like an issue on Simon's end. We heard the sound.
Yeah, because I checked it on my end. We got sound on YouTube, so
yeah. If anybody's, is he saying in the call? Maybe he can't hear us in Zoom.
In chat.
In chat. Okay.
I think he called from the other side because he must have been in heaven or something. While there was a really bright light behind him. So yeah, I'd say there's a audio link problem between the two.
Yeah, the great beyond there has a bit of a communication problem on the satellites.
It's got to come down to earth for this show anyway.
Well, sound is just great here in hell.
Since we're on the topic of Boomerang, maybe we should go ahead and play. We have a brand new commercial for the Boomerang that was sent to us from Rob Inman. I don't know if you want to cue that up, Grant. I think it's towards the bottom if you want to pull up that spot for Boomerang Mania. This will be the world premiere for everybody seeing this, and it's pretty good. And I think Richard will like it too.
All right, guys, here comes the world premiere of Boomerang Mania. I'm sorry. Awesome.
Boomerang Mania.
That's cool.
Sweeping the nation.
I like the exploding head from Scanners. That's a classic.
He sent me a photo of the Boomerang Mania. It says Boomerang Mania is real. I was laughing so hard about this. That's what it feels like.
That's great. We've got another Brian Joyce in the making here. We have these cool little bonus content coming along here. Thank you, Rob Inman, for making that commercial for us. Bravo.
Yes, absolutely. I love it.
Well,
I have a question for Nick that's related to the Boomerang. I mean, the sales obviously are doing really well. We've also got competing boards coming out from both Jim and from Cloud9. Do you have any considerations now, or Rick for that matter, about doing a game that requires more than 512K?
Me, probably not for more than 512K. Maybe 512K should be enough for anyone, but I
Okay.
I haven't really had a need so far to go beyond the 512K, but who knows? Depends on the type of game, though.
Rick, any consideration on your end?
Maybe, especially like in the text adventure realm. I could see pushing against that. I don't know.
Yeah, because you could compress the crap out of text and then just load it off 1 or 2 floppies and actually fill it right up, because text compresses really well.
Hey, Rick, you might actually be able to get Last Ninja onto the CoCo.
Oh!
And the stabbing has begun.
The Last Ninja. Slowly I turned.
Hey, remember, it was all because of Tandy's restrictions.
Oh, it was insane.
Yeah, with 2 megs, no problem.
Yeah, RAM is kind of like money. It's one of these things, if you throw a lot of it at the problem, it goes away.
It only creates others.
Yeah, right.
I figure between the Boomerang and then Ed's Mega MPI with the built-in sound chips and stuff there, you guys are ready for Last Ninja, no problem. You're probably right in BASIC at this point.
I'll tell you this, though, with the extra memory, I can have an awful lot of digital samples inside the CoCo ready to go for games, that's for sure.
So you are planning on possibly using that if you do a game project?
Well, the thing is, Z89 definitely required a 512K system because of all the digital samples. It would not work on a 128K, as I recall.
Okay.
Digital samples is really where that would shine.
Yeah.
I mean, text adventures, like, you mentioned, compressing it. Well, if you compress it, you don't have any need for 512K or anything like that anymore, because it really crunches down really well.
Yeah, it just, I guess on a text adventure, you probably don't need the speed either. You can decompress on the fly. The other thing I was thinking, like, I've seen some games on like on the Apple II and stuff, and some other of the old systems that have a lot of animation frames, and which a lot of CoCo games tended not to do. We used to have like maybe 3 or 4, but you could do very gradual animation and make like a walk look like a real walk. But if you did a bunch of shapes and stuff like that for sprites and have like 16 images right in various positions, you can get some really smooth looking animation, and that would suck a lot of RAM if you're got a lot of shapes in your game. So I was thinking that might be an option too.
That does help with that, but still, you got to remember you got the speed that you can do things with the CoCo with the bitmap system, and you're not doing 60 frames per second. You're doing more about like either 20 or 15 frames per second with the animation. So
yeah, depending on the game, I guess. I mean, like, Photon ran at 60, but it's very simple shapes. So
if we have really small sprites and like 2 of them on screen, we can do 60, no problem.
I think Simon raised his hand. Did you have a question, Simon?
No, I just wanted to know if anyone could hear me. I had problems with audio before.
Good morning. Yes, or actually, good evening, Simon.
Yeah, I had to work out this new Zoom thingy, Bob.
I finally found a light switch too.
I'm sorry,
he came down from heaven now. So.
The look on his face was like, pick a finger. Hey,
I was going to say that
you read between the lines.
I was going to say with 512K, you could do a version of Temple of Rom where the maze was the size of the continental United States.
Yeah, wow.
Nobody's got time for that, though.
No.
Us old-time programmers, though, we really did learn how to use our memory efficiently. We had
that's lost on the current generation completely.
Yeah.
Like I said, 512K should be enough for anyone, really. But I mean, 512K is quite a hunk of RAM, really. But yeah, the extra RAM can be used for anything that needs to be streamed, or you need to have a big animation in RAM. I don't know about a text adventure. That's a lot of text, even for 512K. If you have a 512K text adventure, that's a lot. I don't know why you'd need two meg or whatever. But certainly for OS 9, though.
Hey, I've got one.
Well, you've got an OS and everything else that you need as well.
And you need to keep around,
applications, and I mean, you can understand why you might need it for that. But for me, it's probably it's more value in that it's not so much the RAM. It's more the fact that people may be interested in upgrading to a 6309 now. So having more people out there with 6309s is more important to me. Anyway, I'll talk more about that in the core dump episode.
All right, cool.
Yeah, but what I was going to say is, it's not so much the text adventures. We can do graphic adventures like Dallas Quest. We could do a Dallas Quest the early decades.
well, you can do a Dallas Quest using the CoCo 3 16 color 320 by 200, because that's a 32K screen, whereas of course before Dallas Quest was only a on the CoCo 2 is only a 6K screen. So
yeah, and it was only half the screen, so it was only 3K per image.
Exactly. So to do a really good graphic adventure on the CoCo 3, full 16 color, or maybe even did to make it look like more. Those images will take up more RAM. Now you can stream it off the SDC or whatever. But yeah, you can also just, if you have more than 512, dump them all in there, and so that it's a quick access.
Yeah, everybody used to complain about Dallas Quest and Sands of Egypt, that the drive would spin forever. Well, we did that so that the drive was spinning by the time that you went to the next scene, and didn't have to wait for the drive to
spin up. That's what always impressed me about the Mark Data Products graphics adventures, because they cram those suckers to run in 32K tape.
Wow, yeah.
Well, cool.
It's good to hear that, that Nick's finally, after years of pestering, getting excited about this 6309. And
I kept getting held back by Curtis,
And also the fact that, some people are contemplating what they can do with the extra RAM now that it's becoming commonplace. I mean, it's 60 plus sold already in the span of 2 weeks?
Yes.
Well, Richard, you're going to get a lot of business people having you remove their 6809s off their systems.
Oh, right now, yeah, I've had boards coming in. Got 6 of them so far.
That's good.
And one that tried to attempt to do one, but yeah, I need to talk to him about that one.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. It doesn't sound too good.
Oh, it's going to take a while to fix it. It's a mess.
Oh, look who just joined. Mark Overholzer. He's at the VCF West.
And is Mikey with you? Because Mikey chimed in too, saying he was out there.
Hey, I see Mikey there. Hey, guys.
Thanks for joining us.
Rick, we have a question in the chat on YouTube from Rob Inman. He's asking, what about games in 640 by 225 by 4-color mode? And I think he's talking about the 2 meg upgrade, but is OmniStar 640 by 225 or just 640 by 200?
It's whatever. I don't remember, but it's like the maximum resolution that you can get out of a CoCo 3.
Okay, then 640 by 225.
Now, if I had to do it over again, I might not have made this decision. But at the time, I wanted to try the highest resolution you could get with a CoCo 3 just to see what it was like. And that's why I did that. And now it's like, well, maybe that wasn't a good decision, but oh well, I'm stuck now.
Yeah, I've seen some pretty good dithering algorithms with color even for the 640 screen before too. So you might be able to sneak it so it looks like more colors than that, but still have the higher resolution when you need it.
So I can get a lot of text on the screen, but the nature of the game is such that I actually didn't need to put that much text up. So I could get away with a lower resolution, and that would be just fine. Originally, when I was doing it, it was not. I think it was not on a CoCo 3. I sort of got half done doing this game, way back in the day, and then gave it up. And so now this is another project that I'm doing, that I did back in the day, and now I'm redoing it again now. Only this one wasn't as far along as Bomb Threat was.
Cool. Hey, Mark. Hey, Mikey. How you guys doing today? How's the show out there? Can you guys talk?
Yeah. Can you hear us?
Yeah. How's the show out there?
Oh, okay so far. What? We only got 75, 100 people here?
Probably about, yeah.
Probably about, 40 or 50 exhibits?
Mm-hmm.
This is VCF West you guys are reporting from, correct?
Yep.
That's right.
VCF West.
What's the coolest thing you've seen so far?
Besides Steve's shiny face on the show here.
Any CoCo stuff out there?
Unfortunately, no CoCos.
Is anybody?
No CoCos.
No CoCos.
Any Tandys?
No, not even really Tandys at all. There was a couple of Model 100s in the consignment, and there's a CoCo Model 1, $40.
Yeah, I asked on, I think the VCF channel on Discord. I said, hey, anybody want to have the table at VCF West? And that got poo-pooed. So,
are there any PDP-8s?
I would have brought my stuff. Sorry, what's that question?
Are there any PDP-8s or 11s out there?
Yes, there's one up at the far end.
Yeah, there's one real PDP-11 and a bunch of simulated PDP-11s, PDP-8s. One guy had a LSI version PDP-11 that was used as part of some other demo. It was the front end to his demo.
If I got my hands on an actual PDP-8 or a PDP-11, I would cry.
No, there is an actual PDP-11, but it's not powered on and running currently. I think
they're having technical problems.
It looks like they're running around working on technical issues. But
we'll shoot some video.
I'm happy to say that the Apple and Atari demos are all up and running, but no CoCos.
Yeah.
So I want to know, is anybody using a straw out there?
Straw?
A straw.
No, I think they've all been banned.
Yeah, you don't want to use a straw. You go to prison for a day or two out there. That's what I heard.
Mm-hmm. Is that bad so far?
Okay, next topic.
Cool.
It's a sensitive subject.
So, Steve Bjork,
to jail. So,
Steve Bjork, you want to do your Tandy? Your assembly language part 5 today?
Yes. Sent to Steve the PDF.
Yep, that's why I was asking, because I think Steve's got to leave here shortly for family things, so I just want to make sure we get him taken care of there first. Steve, you don't have a camera today, do you?
No, I don't.
Okay, just want to make sure. All right, cool. Stevie, do you want to get that ready for us? I think we'll do a commercial here real quick.
Well, I have a kind of a project update too to talk about.
Oh,
so
sure, go right ahead.
Yeah, and I wanted to say hi to, because before Mikey came on camera, he mentioned he was out there. So hi, Mikey. Hi, Mark. Thanks for joining us. So yeah, I'm plugging away at Cosmic Aliens, doing a lot of tweaks and having some fun with that. I also got a chance to play Rick Adams' OmniStar, and I just want to say that I like it so far. And I like the game. It reminds me a lot of, it's kind of like a Dungeons of Daggereth vibe to it, but it's kind of like a Dungeons of Daggereth meets text adventure meets hacker. So it's got all these kind of cool elements, and it's interesting. It's kind of cerebral. It kind of is a balance between a graphical and a text adventure and stuff like that. So it's kind of hard to explain, but what I've played for it so far, I like it, and I didn't rage quit. So so that's a plus. So thanks, Rick, for letting me get a peek at that, and it's neat, and I'll just leave it at that for now. And so yeah, if you want to do the sponsors and then roll a commercial, we'll come back. I'll have the I'll have the assembly language slideshow queued up, and I'll screen share.
All right. Sounds like a plan. Alrighty, guys. Let's go ahead and do a commercial. So if you got to smoke them or got to go to the bathroom, now would be the time to go do that. We'll be back right after these commercials.
Hey everybody, this is Bill Noble, co-author of Nitrous 9. You are listening to CoCoTALK Live, the leading live Coco Talk show.
Good day, mates. This is Nick Marionettes, author of such color computer titles as Donut Disaster, Rupert Rhymes, and Rockstar Pilot. And I am here today to tell you about the world's most fabulous operating system, OS 9. OS 9 and its current incarnation Nitrous 9 is the most advanced operating system ever created. And what makes it so good? Ease of use. I find OS 9 so incredibly intuitive that I haven't once cracked open the user manual. And yet I've been able to create such incredible games faster than the time it takes to sing Waltzing Matilda. Using OS 9, I expect my next game, Funstar, will be done this weekend and distributed exclusively on ROM cartridge. OS 9 forever.
Any resemblance to actual events to persons living or dead is purely coincidental.
What's going on, everybody? The original gamer Stevie Stroh here, and I want to talk to you about I'mACoconut.com. If you love the color computer like I love the color computer, then you got to visit I'mACoconut.com, your one-stop shop for all of your Tandy color computer links needs. There you'll find links to blogs and podcasts and project sites and emulators and downloads and groups and communities. If you love the color computer, head on over to I'mACoconut.com. That's IMACoconut.com. Tell them the original gamer Stevie Stroh sent you. Coco forever, people.
It's a Radio Shack Merry Christmas.
This year, I needed to give a real family pleaser.
Honey, please help me with this budget.
How about a new game, Dad? Please.
And I found it. Radio Shack's Color Computer 2. On sale for just $99.95. It entertains, educates, manages, it's expandable, and affordable. Now that really pleases me.
The Color Computer 2. Sale priced for Christmas. Only at Radio Shack.
All right. Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back.
All right. Let's go ahead and do our sponsors real quick. Got to make sure we got to take care of our good sponsors. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be able to do this show.
Well, let's take care of the bad ones too. So mention Voice on Tech.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Whose the warranties go through Go for Retro, Jim Brain. Where is our troll today? I haven't seen him today. No, but seriously, thank you very much to our sponsors and also our patrons, the people who also give us monthly donations to help make this show possible. But yeah, we got CoCo VGA project. So therefore you can hook up your CoCo to the VGA monitor. Boys in Tech, who does the Boomerang for the 2 meg, and also you do a joystick adapter too, right?
Right, what I call the Paragon, but yeah, it's an analog to Atari joystick adapter, and it also works on the Sega Genesis gamepads.
Great, cool, and also you do the 6309 upgrades as well too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep, do those as well, and repairs. And repairs.
And repairs, cool. And you have it set up yet for the labels to be shipped to them and everything with the box?
I can do that manually, but I haven't worked it out yet, but it's coming probably within the week.
Cool. Ease of use, taken from Curtis and I. Also, we have Retro Innovations. Go for retro.com. There you can get like the CoCo Flash and several other CoCo projects and merchandise as well. Cloud9 Tech, which Cloud9 also has several other CoCo merchandise, and I'm trying to think of what all he has now that Curtis, help me out there. Do you know what all is on his website now? I haven't been on there for a while.
I haven't been on any CoCo website this week. I've been too busy learning. So.
He has the Triad. He has a keyboard adapter. He has several things.
RGB to VGA. I'm not sure if he still has
he
that.
has a lot of the cables.
Mini flashlight. Yeah. Nitrous 9 cable. No, drive wire cables. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Yeah.
Which you got to have that to make David happy with his drive wire. Also, we have the SD pack at sdpack.com. Then we also have our famous Switch-a-roo by CoCo Man, which reminds me, by the way, we have a new commercial for him, too, that I just got. We're also streaming on CoCo TV on the Roku, which I don't know if we are today or not, but I'm assuming we are. Then we also have the Retro Swag Shop.
I thought it was Retro Rags, but okay, I'm mistaken.
So therefore you get your t-shirts and mouse pads and coffee mugs and other merchandise there at 8bit256.com. And then plus you got the I'm a Coconut website. With anything CoCo you need to find out, go to that site because it has everything just about there. And then CoCoTALK.live. And then we also have the CoCo Crew Podcast, which I believe they dropped a new podcast here just the last few days. So definitely go there and check that out. And then we have Extractus Productions. Extractus, thank you. At fd501.com. And then, of course, the Zipster Zone. So there we can get your the SD pack for the CoCo.
Yeah, CoCo SDC and the mini MPI, soon the Mega MPI, which includes sound and serial chips, and he's working on the Gimme X and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, and Ed is a silent. I'm telling you, the guy. But he is an amazing guy. I mean, the stuff he comes out with is just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and he's a programmer too, because he actually writes the stuff, the software that comes with most of his hardware, and that's one thing we're a bit lacking in the community right now. Is we have all this new hardware coming up, but it's tough to get the time and the talent to do the software support for it, and Ed's kind of doing it all in one shot. So,
and he can write docs too. I mean, just like, wow, puts me.
Oh, he's got to be an alien then. I can't.
I'm telling you,
he's a CoCo Santa Claus.
Yeah.
CoCo Santa Claus.
Hey, look, he gave the seal of approval for your Boomerang version 2 board.
Yeah, I was like, you don't know how I was just like blown away when he wrote about it. I really was.
And look, we have Ron DeVoe.
The Timberman is back.
There he is.
All right, before I forget and before we go to the assembly language, I had to do this real quick because Bruce Moore sent this to me, so I will play it for you guys here really quick. It's just a new commercial that he just sent me here, so here it is.
G'day, mates. This is Nick Marionette, and I'm here today to tell you about the most fabulous video display product, the Switcheroo. Go from RGB to composite with just the flip of a switch. Talk about ease of use. However, unlike my favorite operating system OS 9, I cannot seem to get this to work down here in Australia. CoCo3ScottCable.com.
Celebrity voices impersonated.
Yeah, he sent that to me right before the show started. I promised him I'd play that, so before I forget. Thanks a lot, Bruce. Appreciate it. All right. We're ready for the Steve and Steve assembly language course now.
Can you make my thing full screen somehow?
Yep, doing it right now.
Hey, look at that. It's gorgeous.
Looks good.
Okay, well, we've been doing this assembly language thing in lessons. We're trying to keep from overloading your folks with too much information all at once. I'm using Stevie as the gauge for this. We do not want him to get to even DEFCON 3 levels.
Yeah, we're doing it in bite-sized chunks, pardon the pun.
Yep. Even though the 69 can do words. 16-bit words, that is. Anyways, this lesson, we're going to continue with the command set. We're also going to talk about something that I've been hitting at for a little while, signed numbers. this is where you can do numbers that are negative and positive. And we'll get into that about halfway, about a third of the way into the lesson or so. And it's really not that difficult. It's nothing magical and like that. It's actually using a trick about 8-bit and 16-bit words and like that. So let's go to the next slide. All right. Last lesson, we were basically doing math commands, and we got to continue through with them. And the first one that we're going to continue with is a little unusual. It's the compare instruction. It allows you to kind of test the relationship between two numbers. It basically subtracts one number from the other, but it doesn't save the result. Now you sit there and say, why bother subtracting one number for another if you don't get a result? Well, the idea is you want to see what, as I said, the relationship is about. And the relationship is via the flags on the CPU. Flags are something that gets set or reset based on the operation you do. And then you can test and use that information to carry over into the next instruction. So in the case of the compare instruction, it will set the negative and 0 overflow and the carry flags effectively. The half carry is not. But the idea is that you're basically trying to sit there and say, compare one number, which is either in the A or B register, if you're doing 8 bits, or in the D, X, Y, S, and U registers, if you're doing 16 bits. Now, this will compare against some sort of memory location information. You can do it what we call immediate. That's where you use the pound sign. And that says, like, if you want to see if the number is 3, you would say compare A #3. And that 3 comes from the actual instruction. But you can also sit there and say, is this in a memory location? Very handy to check things such as an I/O port to see if something is coming through. So it basically allows you to check the status of a number without destroying the number you're comparing against. So it's kind of like a subtract without actually changing the destination location. Sound straightforward?
Yeah, it's kind of, is that similar to like an if-then, but faster?
Well, this creates the information for the if-then, which we'll be covering in a later lesson.
Okay.
The branch, you have instructions that you can branch based on conditions. In other words, it looks at the different flags like 0 or negative and decides, okay, if it's negative, go ahead and branch. If it's positive, go ahead and branch. And so this sets up for branching, sign or conditional branching that we'll talk about in a later lesson.
Okay.
Right now, we're just going to stay with math stuff for now. All right, let's go to the next slide.
I'm trying. Okay, there we go.
Okay. Well, the test instruction's kind of similar in the sense that it doesn't affect the destination, but it effectively does a load. It loads in the information to set the flags, but doesn't put it anywhere. So once again, the negative and sign flags are set accordingly. The V or overflow flag gets cleared. The rest of them aren't touched, but you can use it with the A and B registers or an 8-bit memory location, such as if you want to check the status of a flag that you got, such as is player dead. You can see if it's 0 or not 0, and that'll tell you whether or not the player has died. It basically just allows you to see if it's negative or if it's 0. And it's another common instruction that we use to set up for doing branch instructions, like branch if not 0 and like that. So
one thing I would mention about a test, because some people might go, why wouldn't you just use compare? Because you can compare with 0, etc. The test is actually a little bit shorter and a little bit faster because it checks less, or basically checks against less things.
Exactly. It essentially just loads in the information to see if it's 0 or negative, where the compare instruction is comparing two locations together. And that situation of comparing does take an extra clock. But it's pretty handy. Yeah. So once again, these two instructions, while they're kind of math related, are mostly used for doing branches based on the condition flags later. Let's go to the next slide.
Oh, no. There you
go. Okay. Now we have a very specific instruction, ABX. Basically, it's really a special case. It only works with two registers. And it was put in the 6809 because they had a similar instruction in some of the earlier 6800 based processors. So they wanted to carry across, and it can get pretty useful too. Basically what it does is takes the contents of the B register and adds it to the X register. And we say, well, why would you only want to do that? Well, if you are calculating how far you want to point your X register to someplace else in memory, this is a pretty handy instruction, especially if you're like trying to figure out how to put sprites on the screens and you're using the X register to point to where it is in memory, and you want to move it to the next scan line or to the next location where the sprites would go. The B register could contain information that you had loaded up from somewhere else to tell the X register to jump. It's also very specific because it doesn't affect any of the condition flags after it adds to it. It doesn't change the contents of the B register. It only changes the X. And it's what's known as an 8-bit unsigned number, which we're going to get into what's going on with that in a moment. But if, let's say, for example, if you got the number 32 sitting in B and you do an ABX, X is now 32 bytes later. Gee, that's the number of bytes that's in a scan line in a CoCo 1.2 graphics high res mode.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very handy for that. It's very quick. And the other thing is it doesn't affect the condition code register. So it's just a handy operation, but it's very precise on what it uses.
Yeah, and it's one of the very few instructions on the 6809 that is, as you said, register specific. It's more like the Intel model where you have to use certain registers for certain things. 6809 is really well known for you can generally mix and match whatever you want. This is one of the exceptions.
Yeah, like sometimes there would be a add A to X, add a memory location to X. No, they don't have that. It's just strictly what's in the B register. And I used this quite a bit when I was doing the sprites because my semi-compiled sprites was basically a data stream which contained information that was used to affect the screen, plus information like, oh, gee, I now have to skip so many bytes so I can get down from one scan line to the next. And I'm not only just going down one scan line, I'm moving to the left a little bit. So I might, instead of adding 32, which brings me straight down one, I might have added 31. That brings me down and one to the left. So my sprites are semi-compiled in the sense that the data stream controls how the information is being painted on the screen. So it's a pretty handy command, but it's really weird and unique. It's, as Curtis was saying, the one case where you have to use the specific registers to make it work, which means that when you're designing your code, you have to sit there and say, okay, I'm going to use these registers to do this. And then you have to build the rest of the code, not using those registers for something else if you want to be efficient. So anyways, let's go to the next screen because we're going to talk about signed and unsigned math. There you go. You're on the right screen now. And basically, up until this point, we've been talking about unsigned. This is like an 8-bit number. It's somewhere between 0 and 255. Or in other words, between all zeros on the bits to all ones on the bits. The same thing true for 16-bit. whether it be all zeros or all ones, whatever. They're whole numbers, no sign whatsoever. But you could also, with that 8-bit thing, vary the number from negative 128 to positive 127. And a similar thing happens with 16-bit. You can go negative 32,768 to 32,767. What we're effectively doing is using the most significant bit, the highest bit, to refer to the fact of whether or not this number is negative or positive. If it's a 0, it's a positive number. If it's a 1, it's a negative number. And it's just how these numbers flow together. Now, there's no special mode that's going on in the side of the CPU between positive only numbers and signed numbers. It's just the way the programmer is using those numbers. And besides the sign math, operations, things like adding numbers together and like that, offset for the index registers uses signed numbers only. So when you're looking at X pointing someplace in memory, you can have a negative or a positive number referring to it. And this really becomes handy in the case of the stack, as far as negative and positive, because you're always working pretty close to where the stack pointer is pointing. So that's why they went with signed numbers to reference off of the pointers. So you can point to someplace in memory and say, I want 3 steps back. So you do a -3, and you're now referring to a location that's 3 stacks lower on the stack. Same thing with the positive. It all depends on how you're using the stack and how you're pulling the numbers off.
Is that faster than using the decrement?
Yes and no, because if you use the decrement, then you got to do the increment after you're done. So you got to do 2 instructions. Where in the case of indexing like -1, you haven't changed X at all. You just changed the address that some offset and X is pointing to. So it's kind of like a temporary location.
Gotcha.
So it does make it faster. And trust me, indexing, when we get into that, is the real killer app for the CPU, because you're going to index out the wazoo. So your pointer is going to point to someplace, but you've got information that you want to access. It's off that pointer. It might be 3 bytes in is the current X position of your particular object on the screen. And it just allows you to do object-oriented coding so nicely, which is what all the hip boys and girls do when it comes to coding.
The hipsters.
Yeah.
Right.
Because once you get an object running, you can create the same thing running on the screen in a different place by creating another object. And you don't have to keep reinventing the wheel. You got all these objects running out there. Anyways, let's go on. We're going to talk a little bit about how the math works on the next slide. Okay. This is how the relationship is between unsigned and signed numbers when we're talking about 8 bits. Now in the middle, you see 0, 0. Hey, that makes sense. 1 is 1, 2 is 2, and etc. going up to 127 is 127. But if we look at the top of the screen, let's see, 128 is actually negative 128. And 129 is negative 127. The numbers start in the signed area. They start at the larger number and they work their way down to 0, where in the case of the unsigned, referencing back and forth, it's the exact opposite. Counterintuitive, but it's because we're dealing with negative numbers.
Let me see if I can follow this right now. So we're looking at 8 bits. The high order bit is 128. When we're doing a sign, that high order bit is really a plus or minus toggle. And
Right.
so 128 being on has toggled what, the minus?
It has done the minus.
So just by being on, it's basically said that I am minus and I am minus myself because I happen to be bit 8.
Mm-hmm. But it also has to do what happens when you add these numbers together, which we're going to get into in a moment. And just remember this one here, 255, which is all the bits being turned on, is actually -1. When you turn all the bits off, it becomes 0. Let's go to the next slide. Now we're looking at a 16-bit number, which is the other type of signed unsigned numbers that the CPU use. And it's kind of similar. Now, the 32,768, that means the most significant bit is set, all the other bits are 0, kind of like what we saw with the 8-bit. And they work through the same thing. Now, we're going to come back to this slide. Let's go to the next one because it'll really explain what's happening. All right. We're going to talk about 8-bit. Now, in the first slide that had our 8-bit numbers, -1 was 255. And as you can see, that's all the ones together. The percent sign means this is binary. So that's why I use this reference. And we're going to add -1 to 3, which is all the bits 0 except for the bottom 2. And binary 1-1 is 3. Someday I will get you guys to not even need to think about it. You automatically will know that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right. That's when you go to DEFCON 1 there, Stevie.
Yeah, no, I've taught binary for years. I understand 8-bit binary.
Yeah.
So
anyways, the answer, if we add these two numbers together, 255 plus 3 is 258, which the answer is a 9-bit number. Wait a second, we only have 8 bits, but let's see what it looks like with the 9-bit. We've got the most significant bit set of the 9 bits, and we got the 10 at the end. As I said, if it was 9 bits, but we don't have 9 bits. We only have 8. That 9th bit just kind of disappears. It goes off the ether, and like that. It'll set some of the flags, but we'll talk about that later. Anyways, the answer as 8 bits is 0000010 or 2. So you can see we added -1, but because we are limited to 8 bits, we lose that 1 bit, and the number becomes what we're actually doing, which is 2. So a -1 added to 3 becomes 2. See how the sign numbers work? There's nothing special we're doing to the CPU. We're not, other than the fact that because we're limited in number of bits, we lose a bit. It doesn't matter to our answer, and we get 2. So we added -1 to 3, and we got 2. And that's how that works inside the CPU. So,
and this is known as 2's complement math, right?
Right. So it's not really that difficult. And most of the time when you're working in the assembler, let's say that you want to sit there and say, add -2 to the A register, you can actually put down -2. The assembler will put it down. Excuse me, if you want to add -1, the assembler will put it down as 1 1 1 1 1, all ones across the way, as what it represents as -1. Add it to the 3, and then you get the answer of 2. So there, as I say, there's nothing special we're doing as far as setting the CPU into, hey, we're doing signed numbers opposed to unsigned. It's just the way binary works. And this is why we use binary in the CPU. It actually makes math easier. And of course, since they want to do it fast, it works out great. This is another reason why in assembly language, when we're using these integer numbers that are signed or unsigned or whatever, they're so much faster than what BASIC does, because BASIC uses as decimal, based on decimal. And it's got exponents, it's got the whole 9 yards, and it's an awful lot of work and calculations, where this thing here can be done in one instruction. That's what makes assembly language so much faster. You're stripping away the stuff you don't need. Now, Curtis, in the case of Basic 09, they have integer variables, don't they?
Yes.
And that makes the integer variables so much faster than the full real numbers that are part of the decimal with exponents and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I put up a video demo a while ago of Basic 09 versus Disk Extended Basic, just poking the text screen, 512 bytes, the 32 column screen. Mm-hmm. And it's literally probably about 10 to 20 times faster.
Yep.
If not more.
Yep. It's just the microprocessor internally can do this. Now, later, more advanced processors, they put in math coprocessors that can do all this stuff in base 10 with exponents, and they have built-in functions to do all the mathematical stuff too. Things like trigonomic functions and square roots and all that kind of stuff. But we don't have anything like that on our little 6809. It was a fairly simple chip. In the early days, none of the CPUs had math coprocessors. Even the big, huge mainframes didn't have them. It was much later they started adding them in. Hey, Rick, there was no math coprocessor on that PDP-11, was there?
There was on some models, but not the ones that I ever dealt with.
Yeah, the ones that you
extra.
Yeah, they were extra, like $100,000 or something like that.
Probably.
Yeah, they were quite expensive.
Yeah, we didn't have one in our PDP-1134. I know that.
Yeah, so it's just that this really simple.
The fancy ones would have like a Q register, which would have the quotient for a divide operation.
Yeah. Sometimes some processors had multiply and divide put in, but it was rare to see that.
Right.
And actually, in our next lesson, there'll be a math function I'm going to throw in that I didn't talk about in this lesson, which is multiply. And that multiply command is one of the reasons why Vectrex used the 6809 for its vector display. Made it very simple. In any case, let's go to the next slide. And very quickly, we're going to be talking about doing 16-bit signed math. So because writing down 16 ones is a lot of digits to put down, I decided to write this down in hexadecimal. They're the same numbers, whether they're binary, hexadecimal. It's just that it makes it easier to write and read. Anyways, -1 in a 16-bit signed number is 65,537, or FFFF, or all ones. Kind of like what we did with the 8-bit there, but with 16. And we're going to add to 3, same sort of number there. And if we come up with the answer, we add those together of 65,540 if we had 17 bits, but we don't. We only have 16 bits. So we lose that top bit. And so our answer is 0002, or in other words, just simply the numeral 2. And it's that because we don't have 17 bits, the way this math works out, we get the sign math works. As I said, no special mode you're putting the CPU in, and like that. Okay.
So it's basically chopping off the leftmost bit, and then you're getting a positive or negative value based on if that bit is on or off.
Exactly. And it works out great. It really does. And once again, it's very fast. Okay, let's go to the next slide.
Okay. There we go.
All right. We're going to talk about sex here.
Grant Leighty.
Always wondered about why they put this command down this way. But sex stands for signed extended. Sometimes you've got a signed 8-bit number, but you want to expand it out So it's a 16-bit signed number. And there's all sorts of compares you can do and branches you can do, but they put this one command in where in the B register contains your 8-bit signed number. And then what it does is it extends that sign all the way into the A register. So basically, if it is a positive number, the A register becomes 0. If it's a negative number, it becomes 11111. In other words, 255 all the way across. All the bits are set. And that's effectively what it's doing there. But what it does for the final answer is it's a 16-bit version of your 8-bit signed number. So it can vary from a negative 128 to a positive 127, but the B register now reflects the complete sign that it needs to be. It does affect the negative and 0 flags, and the V flag is cleared. The rest of them aren't affected. But the idea is that sometimes you have to convert 8 bits to 16 bits, and they gave you a command that does all the work for you in one instruction. Otherwise, you'd be doing a bunch of branches and loads, and we don't want to do that. So it's a very fast way to convert an 8-bit sign number into a 16-bit sign number. But the 8-bit sign number must be in the B register, and the A register will continue across. So now your D register has the 16-bit sign number that was just in the B. Pretty much straightforward, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to the next command. Negative. Well, I didn't include this in the last lesson because I needed to go over signed numbers in the first place. And this is a command that works with it. Now you can, negative basically takes 0 and subtracts the source from it and then puts it into the, that becomes the destination register. So basically, if you said negative A, it basically takes A and subtracts it from 0 and puts it into A. B does the same thing. It subtracts B from 0 and puts it into A. And the reason why we make these special negative commands, we do an awful lot of negativing in our code. Like, for example, I might be working with some math numbers and the answer did come up negative, but I would prefer the answer to be positive. So I'm, like I'm checking the distance between two locations and I subtract A from B and I come up with a negative number. Well, if I do neg, that inverts or negative the number, and I now have the positive distance between those two objects. So it's a real fast way of flipping the sign on the particular number. And not only can you do a negative on the A and B registers, but you can also do it on an 8-bit memory location too. So if you have a flag that you're a variable that you're using, you can negative the number. And it affects the negative, the carry, the overflow, and the 0 flags. The half carry is not affected. But it's a very useful command for dealing with positive and negative. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I think so. It's not inverting the bits though, right? It's not inverting the bits. Okay.
It's inverting the sign number, so a positive becomes a negative and a negative.
So it's just changing the high order bit, basically.
No, it's doing a complete conversion. So if you've got -1 and you hit it with the negative, it'll become +1, which is a lot more than just changing the higher bit. It'll go from all the bits being set to only the 1's bit being set. It's doing it's effectively subtracting from 0.
Okay.
Yeah, it's doing a true negative.
And this is a hardware operation that doesn't require a software process?
Yep. It's built into the instruction. Later, we'll get into an instruction called complement, which actually inverts all the bits. But that's in our next lesson where we talk about bit manipulation. All right. Okay. Let's go on. Now that actually brings us to the end of today's lesson, because we're going to get into bit manipulation and shifting and things like that. Because back in the early days of processors, we did a lot of bit fiddling. If you want to change something graphically on the screen, you had to fiddle the bits of the screen to get what you want up there. And so we're going to get into anding and oring and complements and stuff like that in our next lesson. So let's see. What are the questions now? I wasn't looking at our chat.
We had a couple of comments. One of them from Paul Fiscarella. You had shown a number that was greater than 64K. I think you had shown it as 65537 or something like that. And he says it should have been 35, which for those of us who understand that, we get it. That was probably a typo.
Yeah, it could have been.
Yeah. And then 60, our good friend Karen Anscombe was saying, in 2's complement, neg effectively becomes invert all bits and then add 1.
Right.
Okay. Cool stuff. Yeah. And so Grant, you took me off the full screen. Good job there. I would say if we're going to have if we want to have a little bit more of a technical talk about this, maybe we should take a quick break before we do, but I think I followed a lot of it and, I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
How about you guys? Some of this is not new to you. Okay.
I got lost at sex.
Well, you lost your sex when you had your operation, didn't you?
Didn't we all?
Hey, I have to admit, I was like kind of in my teens or very, very young college years when I ran into the sex command. And of course, like any kid that age, I was just having a great time. Oh, sex command. This processor's sexy.
I remember, I think it was the original Byte article describing the 6809 in 1979 or something like that, where they said they had the chutzpah to put the sex command in the instruction set.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's a Yiddish word. It's actually pronounced chutzpah.
Oh, is it?
So, yeah. So
I Canadianized it for you.
Yeah. So, yeah, Rob Inman says sex and bit fiddling. So whenever you can't have real sex, you might just fiddle your bit.
Oh, Jesus.
Well, after our break, I do have a couple of things to talk about in our tech segment that follows up on this.
All right. How about we take a break, Grant, and then we'll come back with some more follow-up discussions.
All right.
Hey,
We'll
fiddle your bits if you have to.
All right. We'll be right back after these messages.
Hi, this is the award-winning Alan Huffman of Subetha Software, and you're watching Stevie Fall Off Cliffs.
Hey, have you got your CoCo 3 yet? Hi, this is Rick Adams, author of Temple of Ram and Shanghai, and you've tuned into CoCoTALK, the nation's leading live talk show featuring the Tandy color computer.
What's going on, everybody? Original Gamer Stevie Stroh here, and if you're a fan of vintage computing and retro gaming, then you're going to love our retro swag shop at 8bit256.com. There you will find custom designs by Instagram artist Joel M. Adams. You can get I'm a Coconut, CoCoTALK, and other cool video game images on a t-shirt, coffee mug, or mouse pad. So if you love retro, then head on over to the retro swag shop at 8bit256.com today. Tell them the Original Gamer Stevie Stroh sent you.
Radio Shack has a great gift idea for the whole family. Fast action TV games, and they're on sale. Get this 6-game model for $29.95 or the 4-game model for $21.95. With rising entertainment costs, that's a real bargain. You play hockey, tennis, squash, and more. Easy to hook up and great family fun that lasts all year long. The sale price TV games. Only at Radio Shack, a Tandy company.
All right, guys, we are back for Techie Talk.
Yeah, my favorite.
Hey, I just want to say real quick, because seeing that commercial for Retro Swag just made me realize something right now. If you guys go to the Retro Swag shop for the next 3 days, there is a promo code, and you get 15% off your entire order. So when you go to the website, you'll actually see it there. When you click on T-shirts and mugs, it says 3 days left, save 15% now, redeem. And the code is built into the website. So you don't have to remember what the code is, but it's actually called Summer Sun, all caps. So if you go to the swag shop, click on T-shirts, we've got a 15% off for the next 3 days. All right, I'll shut up now. Promo code SEX, Ken says.
We're getting some video here from VCF West, it looks like.
Look at this.
That's right. I'm just walking around.
Neat.
So I wanted to show you guys something over here, actually. We need to one-up this one. I mean, really, folks. Atari 800, you know, printers, you know, the whole thing. Come on, where are we, color computer people? We're nowhere at this fest.
Yes.
That's all I had to say.
Is he streaming a video on that screen right there?
What's going on this? What's going on this screen over here?
It's an interactive video for selling Atari computers. It's a copy from a.
Okay, it's playing from like a VCR or something.
Yeah.
Or a DVD or a computer. Okay. No. Yeah.
Tell him he's live on the internet. So.
Sales system you'd find in like a Kmart or a Walmart or something like
okay.
that. From 1982, so
okay. Cool.
Instead of a sales pitch.
Thank you.
That's cool.
So yeah, hopefully you heard a little bit of that.
Yeah, interactive promotional video. Yeah.
That's a pretty good sized show floor.
Yeah, it's a little bit bigger than last year. They had the talk areas over here, and then they have all the vendors that are kind of like, you know, all the way around. I'm trying to get to one other. I want to show you guys one other exhibit, which is the really ancient technology, if you don't mind. But it's definitely a little bigger than last year. Oh, there's two things I want to show.
Is that the Boys on Tech website?
Yeah. So the first one is this one over here. There's a couple of guys here that have been working on restoring these teletype machines. I can send a link to one of their videos on YouTube.
Oh, wow.
They're guys that volunteer here at the Computer History Museum. So they have a demo where they actually have, I don't know if you can see it in the background, but they actually have two of these teletype machines, and, you know, they're just sending dirty jokes to each other. Like this.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, that's one thing I wanted to show you guys.
That's
and is Rick Adams still here?
He is.
Okay. Feast your eyes on the PDP-11 setup that they have here.
Fantastic.
It was powered on when I was over here earlier, but apparently something's going on. How's your... Oh, they removed the paper. The paper on this printer was full of octo. He's talking to some people about it, showing the back plane and whatnot. So I'm just going to continue wandering around, and you guys can stop me if it looks interesting.
Okay, it all looks interesting. When you get by the hot women, stop there for a minute too.
Yeah, I have a little trivia about an ASR 33 teletype. If you find one that's all put together, you take your fingers and put them on the home position on the keys, and then very lightly drum your fingers on the keys, not enough to depress them, but just enough to make them rattle a little bit, and they'll have like a tone. And then if you do the row above it and lightly drum your fingers on that again, it'll be a different tone. And if you go by strategically going on certain rows, you can play Mary Had a Little Lamb.
Ooh.
Which used to just crack people up when I would do that at the computer lab.
It sounds like I should ask. I think this is a 33 here? Okay. Somebody was I'm on a live podcast right now, and somebody was just telling me that, you know, he figured out how to play Mary Had a Little Lamb on the teletype machine by tapping the keys lately somehow. I don't know if you know anything about that.
We have a bunch of 1401 programs. Downstairs, they have a 1401 program.
Yeah.
That will actually play music on the printer.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so you haven't heard about this one. All right.
They're going to think I'm nuts.
I'll have to talk to Mark and Carl about that a little bit. Okay, I'm Rick. I'm going to pass that information that you just gave me on to the guys who are running this exhibit,
Right.
and see if they know anything about that.
I
If you
doubt
have
it.
any, yeah. So
When you explain it to them, they are going to think that you and I are crazy.
I bet. Okay, guys. I'm just going to continue wandering around. As I said, you can stop me if it looks interesting.
Very cool.
All right, cool. Well, if you guys like, I'll just keep this stream here up, and we can talk about the assembly language that we just had. If you want to do that.
Okay.
Follow-up discussion, sure. So, do we have any comments from the panel and from the viewers about the most recent segment? Crickets.
I think Steve covered it pretty well. I mean, the ABX instruction is something that I use quite a bit too. And it's the one unsigned math for adding B to X. You can do an LEAX B, X, which does the signed version of that same instruction. So I did want to point that out.
Curtis, were you giving him a compliment?
A two's compliment.
Yes.
Yeah, well, trust me, the powerful LEX instruction, load effective address, that's its entire segment.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it might even go to 2 at some point. Yeah, it's complicated to a certain degree, but it is the single most powerful instruction in the entire 6809. Wouldn't you agree, Curtis?
Yes, and the other 8-bit chips at the time, like the Z80 and the 6502, didn't have anything as powerful as that.
Yeah.
What are we looking at?
Yeah, the interesting thing about the 6809, I think some of the invention that they put into it came from somebody's nightmare that turned into a beautiful dream.
Acorn. Well, I would like to say I'm speaking on behalf of myself and hopefully other people like me who want to learn this. I appreciate you taking the time to do this and to do it in a nice kind of strategic way where it's not overloaded and it's, kind of layering this knowledge. And while I am grasping, I would say I'm probably grasping this at a 60% comprehension as you're speaking about it. I think it'll make more sense when I watch it a second time, and it'll make more sense when I actually start coding in assembly too. So right now I'm just trying to absorb and grasp without any tangible context to put it in, since I've never coded in this before. Yeah. But I do appreciate you doing it. I know it's going to sink in and make a lot more sense when I actually start beating on the keyboard, with this.
And at some point we will put all the lessons together in one easy to find place so that you can go through and just run through the lessons.
Mm-hmm.
But
you definitely want a back reference there after we start getting further into things and actually start doing actual code. And then you'll say, oh, okay, I remember him talking about that. We're lesson 4. You can go check that out or whatever. So.
Right.
Yeah, because right now there's not enough lessons really to do that. But once we get enough in there.
Steve.
Yeah, I think I just saw Simon raise his hand. Go ahead, Simon.
Steve, I'd like to say about the compare instruction. Mostly it's Steve Bjork. About the compare instruction, I see a lot of times in code compare with 0. That's unnecessary because the flags are set inherently.
Yes.
Well, that's the choice of the programmer to do it that way.
Yeah, it is, but it wastes 2 cycles.
Yeah, but see, as I said, there's a choice. And sometimes...
I'm not saying there's not a choice. I'm not saying there's not a choice, but any instruction, be it a load, be it a store, it set the flag. So compare with 0 for a BNE or a BEQ is nonsense.
Yeah, it's redundant. Now, mind you, if you're doing self-modifying code and that value is going to change, then you have to. So,
not necessarily.
Sometimes you'd put lines like that in just for clarity of the code. So,
yeah, especially if you're teaching somebody beginner, because sometimes it's not obvious that a load or store will set the flag. Where this way you're explicitly saying, "I'm seeing if this is 0."
Yeah. I just wanted to point it out.
No, there's actually cases where it's perfectly well to do that.
Yes,
you got to remember the test instruction.
Same for you.
Okay, no, let me explain before you interrupt me. Okay, just listen. In the case of the test, you only set the negative and 0 flag. In the case of a compare, you also set the overflow flag and the carry flag. And in some cases, you need those.
I hear what you're saying. But most of
sometimes you want to clear them out. So as I said, yes, it can be a selection of the programmer and the way we want to do it, or it could be that they, are trying to take care of the flags. So, sometimes it's not obvious why you do one over the other. You should look to see why they're really doing it in the first place.
Oh yeah, but like I say, I hear what you're saying. It's not because I'm disrespectful in any way, but it needs to be pointed out that sometimes it will be set inherently. But that wouldn't be the case with something like the U or the S register, because you need to compare those to 0, but the X and the Y, you don't. Or the A and the B or the D for that matter.
No, actually, when you do a compare on the X and the Y, you set the flags. And same thing on the U and the D. It's when you do a load, you don't affect the flags.
U and S
store.
U and S don't inherently set the 0 flag or the.
I'm looking at the condition tables from Motorola, and it shows that when you do a compare on the U and the S, it sets the flags. So I'm gonna since Motorola designed the chip, I'm gonna go with their information.
Well, okay, fine. Maybe we should do an experiment sometime.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm and I know you guys know what you're talking about, but I'm getting lost, so no disrespect to either one of you. But that's okay.
Now, the main thing I wanted to cover in the tech segment was we are looking into what we want to use for an assembler for this particular lesson plan and like that, and we're trying to come up with something that works well for everybody, that's not expensive, and that has a lot of support. Now, Steve, you were telling me about a project that uses the Raspberry Pi.
Well, yeah. Well, so Ron Klein is working on something right now that would be a potential good cross assembler. So everybody has their editor of choice when it comes to what operating system they run. But what Ron has found is an editor that's called Atom, as in like the molecule, ATOM. And the nice thing about this Atom editor is that, number one, it's cross-platform. It'll run Mac, Linux, Windows. It supports plugins for context highlighting. So if you have a language, it'll color code your language syntax highlighting. But it also supports scripting. So you can create pull down menus on how you want to output your source code. So he's got it running in Linux already, where he can take either basic code or assembly code from a pull down menu and say, what do you want to do? And then it'll run all the scripts to run things to tokenize it if it's basic, or assemble it if it's assembly, stick it into a disk image, and then launch it in an emulator, all of just one pull down. So you get like 15 different options, or however many options you want. So you use a single editor. It creates a project, it creates a folder, and it does the whole thing. So how he showed it to me, it works really well. So it's almost like an IDE, but using all free over-the-counter stuff. The magic is the fact that he's creating all the scripts for the pull-down menus. And he's got it working in Linux, and he's working on converting those shell scripts to batch files where they'll work that way too.
Yeah.
And so to me, I think that's probably the best tool to use, because everything else seems to work on one versus the other. This one seems to work on all. So,
and that's the thing too, is the only thing you really have to buy is a Raspberry Pi, and that actually becomes a useful investment.
Yeah, that'd be a good development tool, Raspberry Pi. Rick's doing it, so
yeah.
Be like Rick. Well, listen, I'm going to drop off, guys. But I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank everybody for watching. I want to thank Grant for streaming the show today, and for everybody to be here. I got family out there. I can hear them. And so I'm going to go join them. But CoCoTALK must go on. The world needs its CoCoTALK. So as you were, gentlemen.
Thank you, Steve.
And maybe I'll jump on later, or maybe I'll just be in there and I'll troll from my phone or something.
You haven't seen Jim yet, so
we need a troll. We need a troll, so maybe I'll troll. All right, guys, take care. And thank you, Steve Bjork, for doing this segment today.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
I do have to admit, I'm starting to get a little motion sickness looking at the jiggle screen here.
All right, we'll get it down to a smaller screen here for him.
Yeah. It's just if he used a Steadicam.
I think he's using a cell phone.
Yeah, that's my point.
All right. Nick, do you want to do your cord dump here in a minute?
Yeah, I guess we can do that.
All right, great. All right, I will go ahead. Unfortunately, I do not have the sound effects that Stevie has. But we'll go ahead and run a commercial here real quick, and then we'll come back with the cord dump.
Hi, I'm Mike Rowan, and you're watching the original gamer, Stevie Stroh. And when you're done watching, come over and listen to the CoCo Crew Podcast.
Hi, this is John Linville.
And Neil Blanchard.
We are the CoCo Crew. I hope you're enjoying watching Stevie Stroh play video games, especially the CoCo games. And when you're done with that, check out our podcast at CoCoCrew.org.
Where can you catch all the latest news and information about the Tandy color computer and compatibles? Oh yeah, I'm talking about the CoCo Crew Podcast. Dig it each month. Join John, Neil, and Mike as they lay down the latest news and information about the Radio Shack Tandy color computer and compatibles. Groove to interviews, tech segments, and discussions all about the Radio Shack Tandy color computer. Strut your fine self over to www.cococrew.org and start listening today. The CoCo Crew Podcast. Keeping it Coco, dig?
Some people have big plans after school. You know what Elliot's going to do? Jeff, too. Elliot's at work on a book report using Scripted on Radio Shack's Color Computer 3. It hooks up to his TV. And Jeff's at his Radio Shack Color Computer 3 playing the newest football game. But wait, what's Elliot doing playing new Super Pitfall? And Jeff's having a blast with a new math tutor. You never know what you might try with more than 100 programs for fun and learning. Radio Shack's Color Computer 3 comes with everything you see here. Other items each sold separately. Only at Radio Shack.
All right, guys, welcome back.
Hello.
Well, at least we didn't have 3 commercials in a row for the CoCo Crew Podcast this time. Like last week.
All right, guys. All right, we are getting ready for the core dump by Nick. Let me get your...
Actually, before we do that, I just got one thing to say about that was discussed here.
Sure.
When it comes to coding and saying like a compare 0 is, bad and all that kind of stuff, in the beginning, I don't give a damn about that in the sense that I want you to learn how to code. Later, you can make your code more efficient. But in the beginning, let's get it working.
Yeah, as Nick pointed out too, I mean, sometimes it just makes the code clear for a beginner to say, okay, that's what he's doing this branch based on. You did a compare with 0. I know what that means. And you have to kind of learn how flags are set inherently by loads and stores and subs and adds and everything else in order to just take the shortcuts. I mean, I agree with Simon. Yeah, you can definitely optimize it a bit better, but for a beginner, that's probably going a little bit too fast.
Yeah, Optimizer isn't for class 101. That's for sure. We're just trying to get you up and running. Don't worry too much about that. We're not going to get into those issues with these lessons. And one of the things that I'm going to do is drive into everybody that when we start writing code, you got to comment. You're going to put down lots of words. You're going to have more letters on the side of the comment than you are going to have on the code, because sometime later in your life, you're going to go back and look at the code and go, huh?
Yeah, what the heck was I doing here?
Yeah, the comments are because you're writing in the language of the machine, not in the language you're used to. And you're going to need your grammar to explain exactly what you're trying to accomplish there, because it's not going to be obvious. especially when you have these flashes of inspiration. And I'm sure Rick can definitely talk about this, where you have your flashes of inspiration on how to do something. And unless you've got that code well documented, describing everything that's going on, you're going to look at that code and go, what the hell? Right, Rick?
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
Yep.
I mean, just from all my projects in Nitrous 9, because I'm getting back into it after 15 years, I'm looking at code that I actually wrote. And, you know, if I didn't have the comments, I wouldn't have a clue. I'm doing a load A from a memory location, and then I'm doing something with it. I have no idea what that memory location is, but the comment says that's what graphics mode you're currently in or something like that. Well, then it's obvious 15 years later what that was meaning. I wouldn't have had a clue if I hadn't commented.
Yeah, so that's you know, just to get people to relax a little bit. We're going to take it easy, to keep it simple, and we're not going to worry too much about trying to make this code extremely efficient. That comes later in version 2 of the class. So
the advanced class.
Yeah, you know how it is. Nothing's ever done. Right,
Yeah.
Curtis?
Yeah, it's always in a state of improvement.
It's when you are the least ashamed of your code is when you release it.
Yeah, we used to joke that you could keep optimizing your code until it was one instruction. That actually isn't true, but that was the ongoing joke.
Exactly. Okay. Sorry about that. Just want to make sure.
No
got
problem. No problem. Thanks a lot, Steve. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Ron, you're being awfully quiet today.
Nothing much to say. Can you
Are
hear
you
me,
going to
dude?
have a Ron's Garage magazine segment today?
Nah, I don't think so. I was prepared for nothing.
Jeez, now you're joining the rest of us.
I had invited Cats to come, you know, Dennis Kits, or however you say
Yeah,
it.
Dennis Bathory Kits.
Yeah, and then we're not having it. And so I had to go back and tell him, well, maybe next week, because he had given me a definite maybe, which was something better than there's no way I'm coming on. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, he's a pretty nice guy. I've met him at CoCo Fest a few times. So,
Do you want to explain who he is for some of us who don't know who he
They
is?
used to have Green Mountain Micro. He used to, I don't know exactly what he did. He sold stuff, but he also did he do?
he did hardware and software. He did the lower kit, which is
Yeah.
the first lowercase ROM to get true lowercase characters on the CoCo 1 before the new VDG came out. He did Quaver, which is a 4-voice music player. He did a lot of stuff with music and sound because he's actually a professional composer too.
Right.
He was definitely a pioneer in the early days of the CoCo, because a lot of stuff he came up with, we go, you can do that?
Yeah, and he also was part of the Model 1 community even before that.
Right.
So
Right.
And that's part of the reason why I invited him, because I posted a picture of my Model 1 and said it was yesterday was the anniversary of the unveiling of the Model 1. And he goes, yeah, I remember that, or said something like that. And I said, man, you should come on CoCoTALK. You'd be so good at, you know, reminiscing over all kinds of stuff over the years. And, you know, that's when he gave me the definite maybe.
yeah, and any of you that are on the CoCo list, the email group, he's actually the guy that runs that too.
Yeah.
And he also has an FTP site. I think he's even got he produced a audio tape sequence teaching 609 assembly language, ironically enough, that he's actually made available on his FTP site. You can actually download the MP3. So after finishing Steve's, if you want a different perspective on kind of learning the same thing, you can grab his course too.
I think he had
Is that
a
the
lowercase.
tape version?
Sorry?
All those cassette tapes? Is that the one with all the cassette tapes?
Yeah.
So I
He
think
also-
I have it.
He also had a lowercase kit for the color computer as well.
Yeah, I mentioned that earlier.
All right.
Color Quaver was another one too, his 4-voice music synthesizing program.
Was that a hardware device? that you
Software.
plugged in? Oh,
Software. Had one of the better wavetable generations too. I think like it had pretty smooth sound. It wasn't
Yeah,
this
yeah,
generic 4-voice.
quantizing and stuff. Yeah.
cool.
Cool. All right, let me get the core dump intro, and then Nick, you'll be up.
All right.
And then later,
All right.
I've got a why did they do that?
Cool. And I also have that up too for you. So we'll get to you right after Nick here.
Good.
All right, here we go, the core dump. right, Nick.
All
Time
right.
for core dump.
Here we go. This week's core dump, minus the flush. This week I've just been working on my music program. I'm gradually compiling the theme track or whatever for my my new game. And of course, from last week we were talking about doing software exclusively for 6309. There was a few issues with my music program. I felt that it'd be nice to get a bit more speed so I can get the fidelity of the sound a bit better. And I was needing to use maybe 6309 to run the 6309 in native mode. And then I started thinking, well, do I even want to do a 6809 version when we have so many people now with the color computers already upgraded to a 6309 to run Nitrous 9 now? So I'm thinking, well, maybe I should just forget about the 6809 version, just go straight to a 6309, or at least optimize certain parts of the game which do need the extra speed. So I've now officially decided that my new game, Gunstar, will be a 6309 only game. Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, after years of Curtis trying to talk me down, I said, forget it. I won't listen to him. I'll do a 6309 version.
Did you give up on Funstar?
Well, Funstar's finished.
It's been finished for years.
Yeah. But, the extra speed of a 6309 can come in handy. As I said, right now, just to get a bit more audio fidelity, I needed the FIRQ subroutine to run as fast as I could. So I added that in just the other day, and it is a little bit better. I tried to optimize the code as well by utilizing the two extra 8-bit accumulators that the 6309 gives. Currently, my FIRQ routine only needs the A and B registers, but I figured if I can use the other two in the 6309, the ENF, I think it is. What was it, Curtis? I can't remember what they were. But anyway,
ENF,
yeah, ENF. I could just use them only in the FIRQ, and then I won't need to even push and pull the A and B or the D register for my current routine. Unfortunately, one thing I discovered later is that you can't do everything with the E and F that you can in the A and B.
Yeah, it's a little bit more restricted.
It's more restricted, and I needed to be able to do an exclusive OR with the register. So unfortunately, I had to go back to the old A and B.
Now, exclusive OR, you can do register to register. So if you're doing E with an A or E with a B or something like that, you can do that.
Yeah, now the way my routine is, I needed to do it directly on that register with a direct value.
Oh, okay.
And I was, by the time you juggle things around, then the benefits of just having the push and pull D is, it's almost non-existent. So I just kept it as is. But I do switch on native mode now, so I do get that slight increase in speed. But more importantly, of course, the one command that I'm going to use a lot on the 6309 side is the TFR, and that'll come in handy later in my graphics routines, which I had showcased that in an earlier episode of my blog, whereby the TFR command was faster than trying to do even a stack blast as well. It makes quite a difference, the TFR command. Not only is it faster, but it also takes up a lot less code, a lot less space as well. It's just easier to work with the TFR. So that and various other areas as I progress in the game, I just find utilizing the 6309 will produce a better product. Maybe later on when it's finished, I'll go over it again and release a 6809 version, but I don't think so. I think with the number of 6309s out there, I think it's time we actually gave people a reason, apart from Nitrous 9, to actually go ahead and upgrade their CoCos to the best 8-bit CPU, the 6309. So
Yeah, and I mentioned before that you and Richard and possibly Mark too, with the doing the upgrades and stuff here, that doing a cross promotion, like once the game's done, where you guys can do a bundle where you send your CoCo to Richard or whoever or Mark to upgrade to a 609, and if you bundle it together, maybe give a slight discount to get the game with it as an extra incentive.
Yeah, could do that. Yeah. So that's the official word. I haven't done a blog entry yet about all that, but that'll be in the next one that I'm moving on to 6309. I don't know if that would be the first 6309 specific game ever released on the CoCo, is it?
Second.
What's the first one?
Roger Taylor's Spider Hyper.
That's right.
Which didn't really show off, all that much, but he did. There's a lot of extra complication of figuring out that third thing from the original Spider Hype. The third cavern. So there's a lot of comparisons and stuff that had to be added, and he couldn't keep the music up at a decent clip on the 609, so that's why he chose that.
Yeah, so I won't be breaking any records then. So, but anyway, it's still.
You'll be the second.
Well, yeah,
and the first 512K one.
True. Yeah. But it'd be good to see more people actually utilizing 6309 specific code now that there's so many people out there, thanks to the all the upgrades that Boys and Tech are doing, and having sold 60 of those memory upgrades and still climbing. That's a good number of 6309 based CoCos out there.
Yeah, and one thing I'd like to point out too, like you're doing a CoCo 3 exclusive game now, which is what most 639 development honestly has been for. But because the original CoCo 1s and Dragons have socketed CPUs, I would love to see somebody do a 639 based game for the old VDG chip, because you could do some wicked stuff with the TFM and that too.
Nothing stopping them from doing that. Yeah, that's right. It'll benefit on both. Yeah. So that was my first topic on Core Dump. The other one is last week we spoke about. I suggested that with something like the upcoming Jim Brain's memory board, he actually have some program, the CPLD or whatever on his board to mask out the ROM, so that we could have, with all this talk about optimizing the basic ROMs by the 6309 optimizing it, or just generally fixing bugs and maybe even adding features, we could have a copy of that upgraded ROM on the memory board, so that the memory board can then just map out the normal ROM and bank in this new modified ROM. But then I was thinking, I said, well, we don't really even need to go to that amount of trouble. I mean, you look at the CoCo SDC, it allows you to auto start a program. The moment you turn the computer on, it'll auto start a program. So there's nothing really stopping you from having a copy of the new upgraded, improved ROM, and having the CoCo, since the basic gets copied to RAM anyway, have it boot up normal basic, auto start a little machine language utility that will then overwrite the basic in RAM with the new modified one, and then start the machine up that way. That way you can have a enhanced basic without any additional hardware apart from a CoCo SDC, of course, which, there's 500 or more of those out there already. So again, it's another case whereby there's enough of the new hardware. It's time that we can actually, and worthwhile, that people exploit those capabilities. So we could use that feature to have it automatically boot in the new enhanced basic. So it's still no different, or not much different, to just turning on your CoCo and there it is.
Yeah, and as James Diffendever, the author of some of the basic optimizations, is mentioning in the chat room, he says they figured a final patch version would just be loaded by typing DOS. So if you don't have an SDC, if you're still running off a floppy controller, you could just have a disk that has that routine on it. You just type DOS.
You could do that. Yeah, that's right.
It's still not too hard even without an SDC.
Well, that's right. It wouldn't take too much. But I figured that since the basic as is booting up, it's booting up the original color basic, extended color basic ROMs, and then applying the microware patches. It copies those ROMs to RAM, and then it patches it by putting the microware extras anyway. So it's modifying the ROM basic in a way anyway to get the super extended color basic that the CoCo 3 has. Well, it'd be nice to get someone who can take that patched version of basic as is, then modify it beforehand and have that copied in. In other words, save having to patch the original ROM, just get all the patches in so that all you're doing is just automatically dumping a new already patched version of the ROM in RAM and then jumping to that. So that would be fairly simple to do without any additional hardware. So that would be a nice project to have and a good way of upgrading the CoCo 3 anyway, even further. So between the 680, 6309 upgrades and a upgraded basic ROM that takes advantage of it, we could have the most kick-ass 8-bit computer of the era.
Yeah, and then we can add in patches for doing page flipping on the high-res screens because you can do Meg in there too. So
well, that's right. I mean, I'm just talking about the enhancements, but yeah, you can add things as well. You can, new features, page flipping. Yeah,
because that's one thing. Like we were talking with Stevie, like he's using page flipping in Cosmic Aliens to smooth out the graphics in Basic, and that doesn't exist under our super extended color Basic. You just have your one screen and away you go. So yeah, you could add in some stuff there, and you can have it flip between as many screens as you have RAM for. You can do full animations of 20 frames or something like that if you wanted to.
Yeah. And what about altering the sound command to support Ed's multi-pack as well? You can have a version of that.
Or Alan's or John's or anybody's. Yeah.
Well, there's heaps of things that could be done, and the final product will be just auto started from the CoCo SDC, just overlays a new ROM into basic straight into the RAM, and bang, there it is, a totally new computer.
Yep, and you can keep updating it easily too without having to reburn it with an EEPROM burner.
You can fix a lot of the bugs that are already in ROM basic as well.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah. So anyway, that was my my thoughts for the week. So, and that's about all I had to say.
No, I think it's a good idea. And like you said, the SDC gives you one place where you can actually have it so it's auto as soon as you turn it on. And just having to type DOS with a boot disk, for the people that don't have an SDC yet, why don't you have one?
Well, you could do that. You could do that even, yeah.
It would still work. And then people could write basic programs that run faster than they do now, have some extra features. It's kind of like what we've been doing with Nitrous 9 this whole time. Just doing it for the built-in ROMs that people are more familiar with.
Yeah. Yeah, so.
All right, great. Well, thanks a lot, Nick. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm over here laughing at Steve's comments over here. Imagine a rage quit on a drive-in movie-sized screen. We actually might have seen it coming. All right. I'm going to run a CoCo Forever, and then we'll go ahead and do Why Did Tandy Do That with Steve Bjork. You there, Steve? Or did we run him away?
I put him to sleep.
All right, I'll go ahead and run a CoCo Forever.
I'll be ready.
All right, great.
Competitors. And all you have to do is travel back in time without making a single mistake. CoCo Forever.
How does it feel? I'm still believing.
You definitely earned this office.
Yes, you're too kind, and thank you.
You want to grab some food before we head back and look at that Alt Reality OS9 module?
It's only 40 years past due, but yeah, sure.
How does it feel? I'm still believing.
All right. Make sure you get your CoCo Forever episodes. I think he's up to episode number 5 now, I believe. So definitely a very good interactive stories I wouldn't say a game, but an interactive story.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's go ahead and get a why did Tandy do that here. Why did they do that with Steve Bjork? All right, Steve, take it away.
Well, a lot of people complain why certain games never came up on the CoCo. And a lot of issues had to do with the fact that, they didn't want to spend the money because they didn't have the money on licensing the game. But the other real issue is this. When you get some 600-pound gorilla in the room that's licensed the game, they're going to sue the heck out of everybody. Atari was definitely one of them. Now, the infamous game Donkey Kong, they licensed it, and it took them a while to actually go through everything and get on the market. When you consider how crappy the game was on the Atari 2600, and it took them that long to get it there, it just that during that time, everybody was shaking their boots about the fact that Atari, who is owned by Time Warner, would come down with their powerful legal arm and sue them out of existence. Now, a few people came out with their Donkey Kongs for the CoCo, but they changed the name. They did things to hopefully make sure that it wasn't an exact port of the original game. Now, the people that made it more of an exact, port, it was crazy. It was like, okay, you are running dangerously. Now, when I was working at Datasoft, we licensed everything. Why? Well, we liked the idea of having jobs the next week. We didn't get sued out of existence. So, for the most part, we licensed our games. In the beginning, we had a few games that were homages to the original. And I still remember with Clowns and Balloons, we showed up at Comdex, and within a few minutes, a company came by and said we were violating their property and they were going to sue us. It was like that because companies were saying their lawyers out to the different game systems, different manufacturers of the games, and they're checking things out. They're going to shows and looking for the stuff. So, yeah, it was a little scary time. But you have big companies that had lots of money. Like we went in to license Frogger to put on a bunch of game systems. Well, was it Milton Bradley, Parker Brothers, or like that, already went to Sega and licensed the game for a whole bunch of systems. So we were out. We couldn't do Frogger. But then Sega said, well, we got this one game that hasn't been testing well in the arcades, and that was Axon. And I suggested some changes, some improvements to the game. It finally tested well, and we were able to get the rights not because we're going to give them lots of money, but we took a game that wasn't doing well, made it into a game that was doing well, and so they gave us the rights and like that. And that's one thing we found out from a lot of these arcade manufacturers. They were literally printing money, making those $3,000 arcade cabinets and selling them out the door. They're making a lot of money off of that. And the little pittance that converting it to the CoCo didn't matter to them. It just wasn't enough to deal with. But, we came up with a playable game after that and made a lot of money of arcade games they could manufacture and sell out the door to the U.S. market. By the way, Zaxxon tested very well in Japan, but was testing horribly here in the U.S. But that was it. It was like people were scared of getting sued. And even Nintendo got sued over Donkey Kong by Universal. Universal had came out with a movie called King Kong back in the 70s, and they said they owned the trademark, copyrights, and everything else on King Kong. Well, it turned out when they did their King Kong back in the 70s, they had to prove that King Kong was in public domain, that they didn't own the rights to it. And they were just suing Nintendo because they thought they could get away with it, forcing Nintendo to pay them money and do things for them. They literally did not own the rights to King Kong. So there was a lot of lawsuits going on back in the industry. Maze games like Pac-Man. I was just watching a video on Munchkin or whatever that was done for another video game system. It was not Pac-Man. The dots moved. The characters were different. Yes, it had a maze. Yes, you had to eat things. Yes, you had to avoid monsters. But in no way did you look at this and say, this is Pac-Man. But the companies involved were suing them because it was a maze game, and that's what Pac-Man was. And eventually...
Are you referring to Casey Munchkin on the Odyssey too? Because I remember they were getting sued off that,
Yeah,
and
they were getting
changed the game quite a
Casey
bit.
Munchkin, on the Odyssey too. And, you know, it was a lot of battles that were going on. And true, they did say, yes, maze games were popular, like Pac-Man. Let's make another maze game. But they did not want to infringe upon it. But, you know, Atari had licensed Pac-Man, and, you know, they can't, and what was it? Pac-Man was one of the games that came out that caused the video game crash along with E.T. But for almost 2 years, they were suing everybody, stopping them from coming out with maze games. So with all these lawsuits going on, that's one of the reasons why on the CoCo, we never got truly licensed games unless the company was able to figure out some way, like Datasoft did, to actually truly license and get all the aspects of the game. Now, in the case of Tandy, they would actually go to like Activision and license the game and put it on their system, and Electronic Arts and like that. And that's how we got some of those titles. But the third-party market for the CoCo, there was no money that was really being generated in large quantities to afford the licenses, and nobody wanted to get sued, but some people would sit there and try and do an homage to the game. And sometimes they were close, and it kind of sweated whether or not they're going to get sued, or they're far enough away that it wouldn't hold up in court.
Yeah. Now, I have a question for you, because, I mean, in the CoCo 1 and 2 days, there wasn't a lot of licensing even from Tandy. I mean, there was, so through Datasoft, they didn't sell Moon Shuttle. You guys did that on your own. And then there was like Zaxxon and Puyan, and I think the Cornsoft group did the TRS-80 Model 1, 3, and CoCo versions of Frogger. And that was basically it. I think Poltergeist, I guess, was a license, you know, from the movie. But in the CoCo 3 days, there was quite a few licenses. Like we got Tetris and Silpede and Rampage and, you know, a whole bunch of them, Arkanoid, etc. Was it that attitudes at Tandy had changed and they thought it was worthwhile paying for the licenses, or was it that the general market wasn't suing as much, or the market was bigger? Like, what was the reasoning for the shift that there was a lot more licensing in the CoCo 3 days versus the CoCo 1 and 2?
Like in the case of Rampage, that was actually Activision that licensed it for home game systems, and they could develop in-house, or they could go to a company like Tandy, who would then had their area of developers that would develop the game for a price. And then once, you know, Tandy would then sell the game. Once the price had been paid for development, they would then pay royalties to Activision for the game. And Activision just saw it as another market they could make money in. So that was another thing that was loosening up a little bit. As long as they made money, they were happy. But they were also writing better deals too. Activision would get it for all computer games, you know, all computer systems and like that when they would license the deal. And so they could...
So sort of a bulk licensing thing where it's a bit cheaper. We're going to make it for these 10 different systems as opposed to just a couple.
Exactly. So it kind of grew up a little bit, but yeah, it's just that in the beginning, especially, a lot of people were scared that if they infringed upon somebody's intellectual property, they wouldn't be in business the next night or the next day.
I think the CoCo, for the most part, in the CoCo 1-2 early days anyway, I think they avoided that because the market was a bit smaller, and most of the companies that were doing clones for the CoCo were not doing it cross-platform. It wasn't like some of the other companies like Broderbund and a bunch of others that would, you know, make an Apple II version, Atari version, TI-99 version, etc. and a lot of the really good clones we had were just exclusively for the CoCo, and those companies were not interested in porting them to any others. There was a couple of exceptions, like Computer Shack, later Mictron did do some cross-platform stuff, like Time Bandit was on various platforms, but that was pretty rare. Most CoCo companies were CoCo exclusive.
Now, in the case of Zaxxon, there was somebody that came up with a clone of Zaxxon called Zaxxon.
Elite Software. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't a very good version, but it was there. Now, we talked to Sega, about what to do, and Sega's attitude was more like, well, you could do something about it. I mean, we're not going to deal with it. We're already making money from you. It's only affecting your profits, not ours, really. So if you want something done, you go ahead and you sue them. But we get the benefits of the lawsuit. In other words, if you collect any funds, we get the violation, the money for violating our copyright. So there's no way in hell we're going to spend all the money to take it to court and not get anything out of it to pay for our losses in sales or the legal costs, because the way the contract was set up, Sega was going to get get all the rewards out of the lawsuit. So they didn't want to sue. It would cost us too much money to sue. That's why we never did it. Now, here's an interesting thing. When I signed my contracts with Tandy, and Rick will probably remember this, they had a clause in there that basically says that, you know, if somebody's in violation of our game, Tandy will let us know and we can go off and sue them. If we don't sue them, Tandy can sue on our behalf. Then it, added into that was, if all benefits of the lawsuit, in other words, financial rewards, would go to Tandy. Well, that makes sense. They're paying the legal money, so they should get the rewards if I don't want to deal with it. No. They put a little clause in there too, that we have to pay all Tandy's legal expenses.
And I must have suppressed that.
Yeah. And of course, every contract I got from them, I had to strike the line out that says Tandy gets, that I have to pay all Tandy's expenses in the lawsuit. And Barry Thompson told me, yeah, we keep telling him to put it in, but those damn lawyers keep adding that line in there. Well, you got to remember, in Tandy, everything was a profit center. Every department had to make money. The accounting department charged the other departments for doing their accounting. It wasn't free. And the legal department was no different. And they like to make a lot of money. So they were always sneaky about putting clauses in like that. I still remember the first time I got the contract and going, what the hell? No way am I going to pay their legal expenses. They can run it up as far as they want, and I have no control over it. And I called up Barry Thompson and I said, look, I'm not going to sign this contract. They go, oh, they put that in again, didn't they? I didn't even have to tell him what it was. He already knew. He said, just strike it out and sign the contract. That's what we have to do every time. So, yeah, there's a lot of the legal issues, even in those early days of video games. And that had a direct effect on what was produced for the CoCo.
Yeah. Well, I remember Donkey King, when it first came out, was called Donkey King. And then later, because they had gotten some rumblings because it was quite a successful game and quite a good clone too, that they had to change the name to The King to try to separate it a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Though they didn't change the actual game code at one iota, from what I can tell. Probably should ask Chris Latham on that. But
well, Universal, when they were suing Nintendo over Donkey Kong, because it was infringement on King Kong, which, they basically talked about, and they said, look, we want this and this and this, or we're going to sue you. And Nintendo said no. And he goes, well, you guys got to remember, when it comes to lawsuits, we consider that a profit center. They have no qualms about suing. And of course, it turns out they didn't own King Kong. It was in public domain.
Yeah, that kind of backfired.
Yeah. Which meant that all these people that had licensed Donkey Kong, that Universal went and attacked and said, you got to pay us royalties because you're using our intellectual property. They sued to get their money back because, like, there is one sub company that licensed Donkey Kong for their system, and they had paid $5,000 to Universal to take care of it, and they had a sue to get that back. So it's just like,
a mess.
Yeah, you don't have to be right. You just have to be powerful to make money with lawsuits.
When I signed a contract for AMC Networks, when I did some work for Halt and Catch Fire, they had a clause in there that in case anybody sued them or me, I had to have $1 million worth of insurance. And so so when I called them up about the contract, they, I said, oh, because there's this one little clause that sort of makes the back of my neck, stir, the hairs on the back of my neck stir a little bit. And he said, yeah, we know what you're talking about there. Some people don't do business with us because of that, but we really need for you to do it. So what we worked out was that, they worked out, they found somebody to give me $1 million worth of insurance. And so I was going to pay for that. And then they just upped the amount that they were going to pay me by the same amount.
Mm-hmm.
So basically they covered it, but kind of hid it so that it didn't look like they were covering it.
Right.
I've got a similar story with the last game I did for Tandy, and that was Arkanoid. They sent me a contract. I signed the contract. I sent it back to them. I supplied the game. Everything was done. Then they sent me a new contract that said they needed me to get $1 million insurance so that if they get sued for violation of somebody's copyright in the code, that this insurance would protect them. Well, I looked, and the cost for me to get the insurance was almost exactly what Tandy was paying me to do Arkanoid. And I told him, no way in hell was I going to go take all the money you're paying me and go get insurance for you. This was not part of the original contract. It wasn't original stipulation. I never agreed to it. And a little thing about legal. If somebody else creates a contract, sends it to you, you sign it, and you fulfill the contract, even though they haven't signed the contract, they're still legally bound to honor that contract, signed or not. And I was getting pissed at the CoCo team and the lawyers, and I just sent a next day delivery letter statement to whoever was the CEO of Tandy at the time, Roach or whoever it was, and I explained the situation. I go, if this doesn't get resolved in the next 10 business days, I will be taking Tandy court for basically failing to fulfill the contract. And I got a check within 10 days. But that was the last game I did for him, because there's no way I was ever going to come up and pay that amount of money to protect them. But what happened was somebody had created a project for them that did use somebody's copyright code, and they got named in the lawsuit. So they were looking for protection. But it's a little ridiculous to go that route. Don't you just love law and lawyers? And a little disclaimer, I'm married to an attorney.
Well, at least if you need to ask questions nowadays, you can just, shout out to the next room.
Yep.
She probably charges them still, too.
Yeah.
Is she a copyright lawyer specifically, or?
No, she's a government law.
Okay.
But she can practice in any federal court. Mostly she deals with export issues for military contractors.
Okay.
There's a lot of issues for the military to send out their weapons.
All right, cool. Well, thanks a lot, Steve. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So now you guys understand there's a lot of issues that were involved in coming up with the games for the CoCo, other than the hardware limitations, the programming limitations, well, let's just call them the legal limitations. That really affected what we got.
Cool. All right. Well, we will go ahead and do you want to do news next, Curtis? Is there much news?
No, I don't really have that much to say. Like I said,
all right, cool.
I didn't have much to look at, so much time either.
All right, cool. Well, we will go ahead and I'll run a commercial, and then we'll wrap things up. How's that sound, guys?
Sounds good.
All right.
Hey, this is Bruce Moore, author of Force of Doom, and you're watching the original gamer, Stevie Stroh.
Only the bravest souls enter. Only the most cunning return. Defeat innumerable monsters to ransom the king's scepter, stolen by the evil wizard. Your sword, shield, and wits are your only allies. Pray you find a magical inn as your only respite in the forest of doom.
For the Tandy Color Computer 1, 2, and 3.
November 2017, if you dare.
My fellow Americans, Australians, Canadians, Europeans, and all of you ands, I'm calling on all y'all to help us make the world great again by visiting the Retro Swag Shop at 8bit256.com, where you can get yourself a coffee mug like this with a little cute cartoon character that says, I'm a Coco Nut. You could also get yourself a coffee mug like this with a Color Computer 3 that says, I'm a Coco Nut. You could get yourself a deluxe travel mug like this with the CoCoTALK logo on it. You might even be able to get yourself a DVD like this with over 2 hours of gameplay goodness. It is time for us to rise up and make the world great again by enjoying some quality retro merchandise and CoCo nostalgia. So please visit 8bit256.com and let's make the world great for the color computer. Thank you very much.
It's a Radio Shack Merry Christmas.
Oh, I remember that Christmas. Dad gave me my first shortwave radio from Radio Shack. What memories. This Christmas, we got our son's Color Computer 3 from Radio Shack. It hooks right up to our TV and was on sale for less than $130. The Color Computer 3 makes learning fun. Jimmy even lets me use it for word process when he isn't playing computer games. Lucky I still got my shortwave.
Save $70 on the sale-priced Color Computer 3, only at Radio Shack.
CoCoTALK will return. All right, guys. Well,
hey, I got one little thing I can
Sure,
show.
go ahead, Ron.
Let's see if I can show. Take off the top, and I have my 8 megabyte upgrade to show. There it is with all the wires, like Steve liked to ask. This is from Paul Barton. It's a 6309. It has a logic chip there. It has a buffer, and it has memory on the other side, and 2 separate boards. It works. Counts up 8 megabyte. There's a he gave me a I can't think of it now. I have brain fry, but he gave me a program in OS 9 to use the memory.
RAM drive.
RAM drive, yeah. Which I'm going to have to watch him do it again to get the hang of it. But pretty interesting. Ron Klein goes, gee, Mr. Barton, you've put him in a big upper area with very little competition. That's because not many people have 8 megabytes, I guess.
Yep.
You have one. Curtis.
I do. Yep. Actually made by the same guy. I got the 12, 13-year-old version, the Nocan 3. Now, does this one that he did for you here, is that just the RAM, or does it also have like the serial chip and the clock doubler and everything else he had on the Nocan 3? Or?
Yeah, I think so, because it has LEDs on it. When it goes to the faster speed, another LED goes on, and I can select 2 megabyte if I want.
Okay.
There's a jumper.
Okay, cool.
Now we need to get Nick to make a game that's for 8 meg.
Yeah.
I know Paul had designs up to 64 meg back in the day too. So
yeah, he talked about that.
Yeah, why stop at 8?
He also had a wire wrap CoCo 3 at one time.
Yeah, CoCoZilla is what it was called.
Crazy.
That thing was insane.
Yeah. So he's interesting to talk to because he worked at Tektronix, which was a company that made oscilloscopes, I guess. And he worked on the assembly line or something, and he did a bunch of neat things there. Learned a lot. And I guess they did some CoCo stuff there right at the factory. And I don't remember exactly what he talked about, but sometime when he's on, we'll have to get him to chime up about some of his history.
Yeah, no, he's got a pretty fascinating career there.
Yeah.
I do have a couple of quickie little news bits. I finally found my window that I was trying to find earlier. There's a blog posting of Return of the Beast. Now, that's a game that's being worked on by Stuart Orchard, and we've seen some earlier demos of it. It's kind of a Xevious style, except you can go in all 4 directions. And he's kind of hasn't been working on it for a while, but he went to the Dragon Fest or whatever they call it, Dragon Meetup, Cambridge Dragon Meetup, and he kind of got incentivized to get into it again. So he's got a blog posting update there. We'll hopefully put that in the show notes. It's called the Return of the Beast.blogspot.com, and just look for the latest entry, basically. So there's that. And then World of Dragon has some stuff from Per Surratt. I'm hopefully pronouncing that correctly. The guy who does the CMOC compiler, but he's been working on the AGD game thing, and he's actually got a screenshot of some 2-color graphics that he's been doing on the CoCo 1 and 2 based on this engine to create your own games, basically. Let's see if I can screen share this screenshot. Is that showing up okay?
Yep, we're seeing you.
Okay, so that's a screenshot of the game there, and he's been just adding stuff. It's kind of in the early stages, but looks like it has some definite promise for writing your own games without having to write all the underlying code all yourself. So, and I think the other thing I was going to mention, Ed, has been working on his Mega MPI, which has serial ports and sound chips and everything else. And he actually wrote, from what I was reading on the comments on the YouTube video, it sounds like Bruce Moore helped incentivize him to do this, but to write something to convert MIDI files into a format that would run natively on the OPL3 chip that he's using in the MPI. And he's got a quick demo video of one of the songs he converted over that you can actually hear converted from a MIDI file, which makes it a lot easier to create music for some of these games, or to port music over it, so you don't have to do it all by hand and code it yourself. You just run this utility, and basically it'll take a MIDI file you can get off the net, or if you already have one on your synth or whatever, and convert it into something that'll play natively on the Mega MPI chip. So that'll be cool, because it'll save a lot of time for some of the people that are trying to make music without having to key everything in by hand editing hex codes and stuff.
Like these idiots who try to write their own program.
These idiots that take 15 years to figure out 639 is a decent chip. So,
all right, cool. And the only thing I have to offer after on that was there's a couple things that we need to probably just to mention here. VCF Midwest is coming up here soon. It's like it's 41 days, 17 hours, and 40 minutes and 12 seconds before it starts. So it will be in Elk Grove Village, Illinois, at the Holiday Inn at a cheap rate of $92 a night for the hotel room. It is free to attend, free tables. Stevie and I will be going there, and there'll be, I believe there's some other people that'll be going too from the CoCo community. So we'll probably be doing some live streams as well, like Mark and Mike are doing right now in the VCF West.
I'm in the consignment area, and I found one thing interesting to this group. Right over
cool.
here. Anybody recognize this?
Oh, let me get you switched over there real quick.
CoCo 1.
Yep. Found a CoCo 1.
Woo!
But there's a lot of other really cool stuff here. Not just the CoCo. There's K Pro and dusty looking TI-99, Atari, and then there's some kind of, I think this is a 6800 trainer. There's like Macs and Apples and all kinds of cool stuff in this consignment area. It's pretty
Any
cool.
Amigas?
No Amigas. But
Show's not worth it then.
they had Amigas last year. They had Amigas last year, but I think probably one of the more interesting things is this over here. You don't see these guys over here very often. Have a K Pro that's running, and is this one it's an IBM portable computer. I guess that's 5155. Wow. Anyway.
Dang.
Yeah.
Any MC10s?
No MC10s, just the CoCo. This guy's pretty interesting. It's a 8080 trainer box. Has some kind of really interesting encoder thing in it. It's a motor with a encoder. So I guess you turn the motor on, and then the fan spins, and then there's a rotary encoder, just for practice. Because I used 8080s for control a lot. Anyway, cool stuff. Out of my budget, but I think most of the
What are you going to buy? Are you buying anything?
Oh, I bought a keyboard. That's it.
Cool.
So, all right.
Well, thank you very much, Mike, for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks. Grant, are you guys actually setting up a booth at VCF
No,
Midwest?
go back. There was a doorstop on the table.
Oops. Which one? This one?
Yep, really nice wedge there. Good old TI.
There's another one in the other dusty corner. So
yeah, it's just they're perfect for holding the door open.
If the MC10 wasn't tall enough to hold your door up and not heavy enough to hold a heavier door, that was your replacement.
Yeah, and the wedge really helps.
They actually have a TI-99 that's running over in the show area. Wow, look at this. So this 7800 or 5200 and the stack of games with it. That's a pretty good stack.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
Back in the day at Datasoft, I literally did use a TI-99 as a doorstop for about 4 months. Everybody got a kick out of it.
Now, Grant, you and Steve are actually having a booth at VCF Midwest?
Yeah. Steve's got a booth. He's going to be using his Tandy 1000. I think he's going to be doing the basic program of his game and demonstrating that. And also, I think he's going to hook up his Retro Pi, CoCo Pi as well, to do some more demonstrations of his game on the CoCo. So, and then I think he's also giving a talk on Sunday morning.
Okay. So Mikey and Mark, who were there, did Tim Linder make it out? I knew he was talking about possibly getting out to VCF West, but I don't know if he made it or not.
Tim is not going to make it until tomorrow, so
okay.
At least that's what he said. So I'm not going to be able to connect with him, unfortunately.
Because I think for next year, we would like to have a CoCo representation there. So I don't know if that should be Tim's job or your job or Mark's job or a combination thereof, just to have some sort of a demo booth, because it's vastly underrepresented so far this year.
Yeah, I did. I didn't go on the CoCo list, but I did go on the VCF channel, and Tim said, "Nah, it's not worth it." I'm like, "Okay, let the Ataris and the Apples take over the show."
Well, how expensive is a booth there?
I'm not sure exactly, to be honest.
Okay, but yeah, if we can, I'd love to see us getting more representation at some of these shows here, because you're getting a lot more diverse group, and then we can get some more people, to join in the community and join us on the show, etc.
I will discuss it with Tim Linder next year, and see if we can put that together. I know there's Tim, and there's a couple other people out here in this area as well. So I think between all of us, we have pretty much all the CoCo hardware. So
I love in the background of your shot the photograph of the Cray. If you turn around,
this one.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm shaking a little bit.
Yeah, it's such a classic computer, and it came with free seating.
Right. When I was a kid, I don't remember where we went on the field trip to. We went on the field trip to some place, and they didn't. I don't think it was this Cray XMP. It was some other one. They actually had one that was running computations somewhere. I don't remember all the details. But I did see one that was running one time.
Yeah, I got to play around with the Cray, but they wouldn't let me touch the Cray MXP when they got it in, because over at Lominar, or whatever that was doing Dallas, they were working on a little movie called The Last Starfighter. And they were using a Cray to render all the scenes. Well, they got a Cray MXP in, and it could render much faster and with a higher resolution. So they had to go through and redo all the scenes with the Cray MXP. And it allowed the computer graphics in there to go up one level so that when you watch the movie today, it doesn't look that bad. But with the graphics that they had with the regular Cray, you would say it not held up over time.
Oh, I wanted to, there's some slide rules over here, but I actually wanted to point out this calculator.
Commodore.
A Commodore calculator. I don't think I've ever seen one this old before. I've seen the newer ones that have the Chicken Lips logo and have like the more keys. But I saw this, I'm like, wow, that's an oldie.
That almost looks like a PDP-11 disc platter there in the back too.
Yeah.
Probably. It says something about IBM. 1952, 1984. Okay, guess that's when whoever that guy is retired. But there's here's an RPO6.
Yeah, those are the types of the PDP we had used. You'd have a little screw top there to lift it out.
Anybody want a slide roll? No?
Got one.
Oh, what's this? A 48 G plus. Nice. Okay, I could go on forever, guys. So just finish up the show. Everything for me is gonna be, oh, cool. Look at this. Oh, cool. There's a North Star. Anyway.
Sometimes there's good stuff on the ground.
Yeah. There were these cartridges over here. I don't know what those are doing.
This is like Ataris.
Yeah, Atari cartridges.
And you can see some people walking around with the stuff they've purchased.
Yep.
Are the prices pretty good or are they expensive?
I think they're less than eBay, definitely.
That's important.
Is the CoCo one for sale? And how much did they want for?
It's $40.
Oh, that isn't bad.
No, he asked us if that was a good price, and I'm like, you can sell it for that price, probably. Is what Mark and I said.
Is it 64K or 32 or 16 or?
It's a 26-3004. So Mark and I guess it's 16K.
And there's the box.
Yeah, it has the box. 16K and probably not extended, I would guess. I don't remember.
Yeah, it looks like it's probably an F board, judging by the label position.
With the center
label. Pretty good shape.
Yeah, that's the later version.
Let's see the sticker on it.
The back?
The sticker on top. What it says. Oh, and dust cover.
Untested though. Probably works.
Unscratched.
Yeah, it looks like the case is in really good shape.
Yeah, that's really good shape.
Yep. And the sticker is still intact. Sorry, it's upside down, but there's no hole in there. It hasn't even been opened by Radio Shack. Where is it?
What's that serial number?
21888. Yeah, I can turn it around, but
no, you're good.
Hand. Anything else you want to look at?
Was there any Model 3s or 4s?
Not this year. Last year they had a Model 1. I think it was in the $200 to $300 range. I almost bought it, but Karen would kill me. So.
Where's this show at?
This is at the Computer History Museum in Mountain View, California.
Cool.
So
well, maybe I'll have to fly out there next year and try to attend it.
oh,
Someone should
just
buy
watch
that
something
CoCo.
drop and break.
Someone should buy that CoCo and then auction it off at the next CoCo Fest because it's in pretty good condition and boxed.
Yep. I know that our box, the model of CoCo that I have at home is this one, 260,004, and I know our box looks nothing like this.
No,
Ours
it's
looks
yellow.
like yellow,
Yeah,
and
mine too.
it's been tossed around the garage for all these years.
Well, you
I have
need to
it,
put
but
retro braid on the box.
Just the case looks like it's hardly been used. There's no wear on the front, no scratches.
I think there's like a small scratch over here somewhere. I don't think you can see that.
That's probably why they think it still works.
Oh yeah, it doesn't have a badge.
Oh yeah. They never did. I think it was only the very first one, wasn't it? The grey model before that had the logo to the left.
Yeah, the D&E boards mostly had the
logo to the left and the badge. Okay,
Yeah.
so mine has the logo to the left and the badge. So I guess it's a
that
little
one
older.
does. So that's an older one, yeah. But this one's the second generation greys.
And one thing I liked about that case was you could put the monitor on top of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I went to the CoCo 2, it wouldn't work. That's the reason why I really missed the deluxe CoCo, because it was the same size.
And there's a lot of stuff there.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
Oh, cool. Well, thanks a lot, Mike. Again, I really appreciate you doing that for us.
Sure.
And like I said, hopefully Stevie and I will be able to do the same thing too for CoCoTALK when we go to the VCF Midwest. So we'll have to see how these two shows compare.
I think it might be bigger, probably.
Oh, really? The Chicago one's bigger, you think?
I would guess, yeah.
Huh,
Actually, this show that you're at used to be bigger.
Yeah, used to be bigger before they had it shut down for a couple of years.
Yep.
And it's just restarting again now, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, and the only other thing that I wanted to touch base before we leave was Tandy Assembly. Tandy Assembly is going to be coming up here on November 10th and 11th in Springfield, Ohio. You can register online by clicking the Pay Now and be pre-booked and don't have to wait in the long lines to get your name badge or anything. So I don't think they have anything on the schedule yet, but I'm sure they'll be getting this updated here soon. Speakers, nothing really showing up there yet either. So hopefully they'll get that updated here in the near future. So, so that's coming up on November 10th and 11th. All right, that's all I had. Did you guys have anything before we head out today?
Nope.
Nothing more for me.
A surprise show. Nice to see
Yeah,
that it
yeah.
went on.
We went 2.5 hours long, so
And hopefully we can
a
get
good job.
Dennis on in the near future too. Dennis Kitts.
Yeah, that would be cool.
And Ed Snyder.
Yeah, that's another good one. We need to get
He's
him
kind
on
of the
too.
unicorn guy, as far as I can tell here. Just
Hey, can you switch back to the VCF again? See what programs they're running there. There's a 3D demo or something there. Is that a PC? Is it?
Yeah, these are like the NEC and Fujitsu
right.
Japanese computers. They have an FM pounds machine. So these are like the Japanese game machines. This one here is the FM pounds, which is 386, and then the X68000 next to it. So this is kind of like the Japanese
that's my game.
Japanese game computer section.
they don't have any of the FM77, the 6809 based ones there, do they?
I don't remember seeing one. What's this machine down here?
Wasn't there a CP200 or something?
No, this is probably an MSX. Yeah, the sign even says MSX machine. So, okay, we'll sign you out with some teletype machines. They're over here.
Did they work out how to play the music on the keyboard?
I haven't. I haven't sat down to look that up. They have these two teletype machines, and I think these poor guys have run out of jokes to tell each other, typing in between the two machines.
How come those machines don't have any LEDs?
Well, they're completely electromechanical.
Yeah.
So they didn't have LEDs when they designed these teletype machines in the 1920s. So, can you make it like? Can you type on it or something?
Type hello.
Oh no!
CoCoTalk.
Just type on it.
Do something about CoCoTalk live.
Yeah.
CoCoTalk, the teletext version.
Actually, one of the local guys in our club in around 81, 82 actually did have a teletype he brought home and hooked his CoCo up to it and used it as a printer.
Well, look,
This guy's got an adventure.
Satan's box.
And we'll have to get you and Mark and Tim to kind of check what a price of a booth would be, and maybe with a lot of lead time, come up with some sort of demonstration package for you guys to run.
What town are we in here?
Mountain View, California.
Oh.
PvP 11 again.
Silicon Valley.
Oh, here's a note. Can you read this?
Went home for spares.
Upgrading to a 6809.
Good. I didn't mean to steal the show, but I wanted to send you guys out with showing the Vintage Computer Festival.
Oh, no. Thank you very much. It's hard for a lot of people to get out to see these shows, especially on the West Coast, and I think it's...
we got in cheap.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, is that an Amiga 2000?
Oh, it is. I missed it.
Go.
I'm sorry. But last year they actually had a Amiga demo. They had like, what was it, 500, 1,000, 4,000. They had a couple of them running last year.
That's a fish tank running right there.
Ah, a Woody.
Yeah, with Warlords, it looks like.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What do you call this one with the 4 switches?
A Woody. It's an Atari 2600.
I know the one with. I know the one with 6 switches. You call it Sixer, but what do you call a 4 switch one?
Yeah.
Oh, who knows?
Woody
the first
Junior,
one was
I guess.
6, wasn't it? Yeah.
The cheaper one.
Yeah, it is. It's the cheaper one.
That's a technical term.
There's the wooden keyboard.
Yeah.
Wooden keyboard where?
Right where you're looking. Well, the frame of it's cardboard or wood, isn't it?
No. It's metal, aluminum.
Oh, okay. I thought that was wood.
This is... Never heard of this company.
Wow, look at that game on it.
It's a Z80 system. Then these ones, they have the Acorn Atom, and they have some BBC Micros, etc. on this row.
Yeah, I remember Marty Goodman had put one of his CoCos in a wooden box, and I was working on it as a Black Widow crawled out. Needless to say, he grabbed the wood from his scrap bin.
Go down further. Is that where the CP200 is?
Yeah, CP200 is down here.
Is
somewhere.
that a 6809?
No.
No.
Z80.
Oh.
Yeah, there was a VZ200, I think, that had a 6847 chip in it, if I remember.
That kind of looks like a...
Oh, this machine here is exceedingly rare. It's a Sinclair Z88. Yeah, I remember reading about these when they came out, but I never actually saw one that was running.
I don't think it's a Sinclair. It's a Cambridge, isn't it? Something. What does it say? No.
This says made in Great Britain.
I don't think it's a.
Oh,
Sinclair.
you're right.
Cambridge.
Cambridge
yeah.
Computer. Well, it's still Sinclair, Clive Sinclair. So.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I've actually got one of those.
Steve Bjork, here's your doorstop that's running.
Right.
Ron Klein likes those.
It's running TI Invaders.
They should be running Parsec. That was still one of their best games.
What do they have here?
Yeah, there's Parsec.
There's Parsec.
It had their speech synthesizer was way ahead of its time. It was an extra add-on you had to put on, but the Parsec, the speech, like most speech at the time, was really warbly, crappy sounding, like our speech sound pack.
Here's the FM7.
Aha.
There you go.
I didn't remember that they had it over here.
And what are they doing?
I don't
crashed.
Running numbers.
No, it's running a program.
Ah, there you go.
Because that's 609 based, is it not?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
Can you read the program, or did it go by too fast?
Yeah, dual 609.
Dual 609. Yeah.
Let's look at it. Is it clean?
And it actually had a version of OS 9 that supported both CPUs.
Whoops! I broke the demo. It's not working.
Oh no.
You got to learn to keep your hands off the machines.
It needs a Japanese word.
Sayonara.
What is it running on a
There. Okay, I got it to do something.
That's running a version of Microsoft Basic too, if I remember. Like it's fairly similar to CoCo Basic.
Yeah, this program that's here has some kind of draw statements in it. So, anyway, you get the idea. Let me make this run this thing again. I'll try this.
Want to do something?
Oh, is this your demo?
Yes. No, it doesn't matter.
I'm on a TRS-80 color computer podcast, and somebody asked, "Oh, do they have an FM7?" I'm like, "I don't know," and I just walked up to it. So we were admiring. There is a 6809 machine here at the show. So, what was the demo that you had running before?
Oh, it is not running anymore.
I typed run, and it just did this. I'm sorry.
No, it's no problem.
I'm sorry, I broke it.
It's got two keys, so there's a maze and a podcast.
Okay. Oh, it was a maze program?
Yeah, it's just that simple.
Okay. I didn't break anything.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
I expect it to be.
I just typed the break key and then tried to run it. So.
Ask him if he's got OS 9 for it too.
Oh, there was a question from the podcast. Do you have OS 9 for this computer? He says he doesn't.
Ah, darn.
Oh, we'll have to fix that. We can get you a copy of Nitros 9, which is they're still currently working on it. Maybe we should talk off of the podcast. We may have another Nitros 9 user, guys.
Ed's got one.
Well, I have to admit I'm getting a little motion sickness with this camera.
Okay, it's just an iPhone, so
yeah. Next
Ooh,
year's
try my
model,
best.
they'll have to add in image staples.
Is that a micro B? Yeah, it is too. It's an Australian one.
Is that a CTR-81?
No, it's a micro B.
This one is a broken micro B.
It's a broken one. It is.
The case apparently got broken in transit, but I guess it still works.
No, that's a
micro B
CTR-81 right
series.
there. Right? CTR-81?
Oh yeah, it is too.
Yeah, I got one sitting here. Another Radio Shack.
I think this is officially turned over to Retro Talk now.
Yes. And this is some, I guess,
how many? Oh, sorry.
Oh, Yugoslavia, RCA 1802. Weird little guy.
How many people are watching the podcast at the moment? Has anyone checked?
I have not. Usually Mark is the one who does that. And I'll pop it up and we'll check it here.
Sorry, guys. I really like the teletype machines.
15 right now.
Hey, that kid's... Hey, he rage quit.
Yeah, he did. Perfect. His name is Steve.
Yeah, he's talking. He's talking to the guy on the other one. This one's going.
Just getting the latest news from CBS. Remember?
Is that what they use?
Remember?
Yeah.
When CBS used to come on, and Walter Cronkite would come on. You'd hear the machines in the background.
Yeah.
All the latest.
Right.
News.
That was very frequent because I think it was WPI was the name of the company. One of the companies, they actually had a tele-news feed, and many news organizations would have a teletype machine that would just be running, and the news would be streaming across. And yes, absolutely, you could hear it. Like, they actually had it usually close enough to the studio, where you could hear it going chug, 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 like this one here, in the background for pretty much the whole, broadcast.
Now, there's something you don't see often at these shows. There's a female in the audience.
What? What? Oh, somebody's wife. It's time to go home.
Yeah, somebody got dragged.
Dinner's ready.
They do have a computerized knitting exhibit over here. I don't know if it's running.
Oh, hey.
Looks like she's doing it right now. It has a card, I guess, that has the pattern in it. Yeah, she's showing that. But yeah,
Can she put together a cocoa dust cover for us?
Yeah. That would be good.
All right, guys. I think we'll go ahead and end the show here.
End of the show, yep.
I was going to ask you one last thing. Did you see any chips for sale? Like, long tubes of chips or things, 6309s or,
No, I did not.
G80s or...
Nope.
Nope.
Cool. Well, thank you very much, Mikey. I appreciate it.
Sure.
All right, guys. Let me go ahead and we'll do the outro here. Thanks to everybody who joined us today. We had Stevie, Richard, Mark Overholzer, Curtis Boyle, I'm sorry, Ron DeVoe, Simon, Rick Adams, Mike, Steve Bjork, and Nick. Thank you very much for everybody who participated today. And I'm not even going to try the chat. Thanks everybody in the chat with Paul, Tom,
Mark, James,
Mark Overholzer.
Karen.
I don't see how he does this. There's just so many in there.
Steve himself was in there for a bit.
Yep. Mr. Stevie Stroh himself. But anyways, thank you for everybody who watched us today and participated. And we'll be back here next week for episode 70. So let me go and get the outro out, and we'll be good to go.
This concludes another episode of CoCoTALK, the world's leading live talk show featuring the Tandy Color Computer. For all things CoCoTALK, visit us on the web at CoCoTalk.live. We'd love to hear from you. Send feedback, suggestions, even segments via email to CoCoTalk@CoCoTalk.live. If you love the color computer like we do, then visit IMACoconut.com for all your color computer links needs. Consider supporting the show with a purchase of merchandise from our retro swag shop at 8bit256.com. If you'd like to become a patron of the show, Visit the Patreon link on our site at CoCoTALK.live. CoCoTALK would not exist without the community and its cast and crew. Thanks go to Curtis Boyle, David Ladd, Mark Overholzer, Grant Leighty, Bruce Moore, Nick Marentes, Ron Delvaux, Rick Adams, Jason Reichert, Richard Lorbieski, Jim Brain, Karen Anscombe, Simon Jonason, Wayne Campbell, Steve Batson, Brian Joyce, John Strong, and Barry Nelson. Special thanks to Steve Bjork for production suggestions and Brian Joyce for our best of episodes and bonus content. Please help support the CoCo community by visiting some of its contributors. The CoCo Crew Podcast at CoCoCrew.org. Glenside Color Computer Club, host of CoCo Fest at GlensideCCC.com. Jim Brain and Retro Innovations at Retro.com. Tandy Assembly at TandyAssembly.com. Boyson Technologies at BOYSONTech.com. Get your own switcheroo at cocoman.biz and Cloud9 Technologies at cloud9tech.com. CoCoTALK is hosted by Steve Strobridge, co-hosts, technical directors, segment hosts, and producers Curtis Boyle, David Ladd, Grant Leighty, Mark Overholzer, Ron Delvaux, and Jason Reichert. Production motivation, Steve Bjork. The CoCoTALK theme song is copyright 2008 by D. Bruce Moore and Greg Schalar. Mixed, mastered, and produced by D. Bruce Moore. CoCo forever, people. And let's not forget a very special thank you to Roger Taylor for getting us on the CoCo TV channel on Roku.
And Apple One.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Hey, Ron, did we make it on Roku today?
Probably not, because I told him to cancel because
Oh.
I knew we weren't having it, and they charge him for putting it on, you know. So he wanted to. Yeah, so I don't.
I forgot to show the Apple One earlier. But
called
there it is.
Steve, so.
Yeah.
What is this?
Apple
One.
Apple One.
The original 1975 model.
You got $10,000? You can buy it.
No, not $10,000. Try hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Is that how much?
I don't remember this one, but
Is that a tape with a game on it?
Sorry, what's that?
Is that a tape with a game on it back there?
No.
That's probably basic.
On the Apple One, Basic did not come in the ROM, so they sent it on tape. So you would plug your tape recorder into the cassette adapter, which is this one over here. So this one has the provenance. So these two documents here are the sales receipt and a letter about how to use the computer from Steve Jobs. So This is apparently an original, built from a kit just from one person and then sold in auction, according to the text here. Don't know, have to look it up. This one, the 2010 auction. But
that
it was
would have gone for a good sum.
I remember they were talking about
six figures, I think, yeah. If I remember.
Yeah, 6 figures. Definitely.
Wow.
That looks like it's a good show. Might have to try to go to that one next year. Try to go to a different show each year is my goal.
Can you see the processor on there?
Oh, yeah.
6502, isn't it?
Yeah. It's right here. Don't know if you can see it.
The white one, yeah.
6502.
Yep. Well, that's it.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for Retro Talk today. Very interesting. We're going to have to try that again next year. Hopefully the VCF Midwest is good.
At least it'll have a CoCo booth.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I'll have Glensides will be there too, so they'll have quite a few CoCos. All right, and just to send us off, I just wanted to do this one real quick in honor of David Ladd. All right, guys, we will be back here same time, same place next week for episode 70.
Wow.
Woohoo.
70.
Bye-bye.
70.
Are we going to have an episode 100 special?
Oh, I'm sure Steve will do something on that one.
Yeah, he'll rage quit before it even starts.
Probably. All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching us, and we'll see you again next week. Take care, everybody.
Bye.